Here.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Neihardt.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Degree.
Present.
Mayor Irvin.
Present. Please rise and join Councilmember John Keener in the salute to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have a closed session report?
Reportable action.
Okay. This brings us to the consent agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on any consent calendar item may do so at this time. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes. Those wishing to address the council on any item listed on the agenda should submit a yellow card that you can get from the back of the room and give it to the city clerk. Items on the consent calendar will be adopted by one motion unless a council member or person in the audience requests before the vote on the motion to have an item discussed under the consideration portion of the agenda. Time limit on comments is 3 minutes or less. So first, I'd like to ask if anybody would like to poll.
Yeah, we'd like to poll item number, I'm still running down the list here.
Okay, I think,
Here it is, item number 8 for comment.
sure, we're going to poll item number 8 for comment.
And I would like to make a comment about one item, just, I don't know if anybody else wants it, but I think everybody's going to want to talk about 8.
Sure.
But I would like to just say thank you to Van Ocampo and the Public Works Department and to the school district and most importantly to CCAG, because the combination of funds both through the Safe Routes to Schools as well as through the grants that we applied for actually through CCAG actually have gotten us all new crosswalks, and I am very proud of that. And I think we're going to be doing a sort of ribbon cutting ceremony on that. Do we have a date yet?
I still don't have
Working
one
on
to
it.
share with you. We haven't heard back from
Okay.
all of the council members.
But one of the things that is just so wonderful about San Mateo County is the ability to work together and get the most bang for your buck out of the money that we receive, both from Measure A as well as from the state. And we do that through the City and County Association of Governments. It's unique to San Mateo County, and I'm very pleased to be its current chair. It's an honor to represent all the electeds in the county.
Thank you. Councilmember O'Neill? Oh, did you have, I'm sorry, I thought you had, no, sorry.
Irishman speechless.
Okay, sorry. I did just want to add to that as well. I think item number 5, the warning lights on the crosswalks, was a great collaborative effort from CCAG for providing the opportunity to apply for those funds and providing those funds in collaboration with the MTC, and just a great group effort as well with the City of Pacifica and the Pacifica School District and the Jefferson Union High School District. Everybody got some crosswalks, which are desperately needed in a time when we don't have the money for to hire crosswalk guards anymore in the schools. So this is a very appropriate and excellent use of county funds, and I am really grateful for everything that was done with that collaboration and that grant.
After she'd started talking, I thought of something. But basically, what was unique about this is that the city could apply for the money, but we did need matching funds, and the school district was able to provide the matching funds. And I believe the high school district also provided the matching funds, or did we do the matching funds?
That's through the Safe Routes to Schools money, which is also CCAG, but a different route. Yeah.
The match came from Pacifica School District.
Right, in order for us to apply for the CCAG money. So, but I wasn't sure if the high school district contributed or not, do you know?
I don't believe so.
Okay, but the Pacifica School District was able to give us the money for the matching funds, which allowed us to apply for the grant and get the money.
Right, the Safe Walks to School
So
grant.
it truly
yeah.
was cooperation among the three.
Absolutely. Mayor Pro Tem Degree.
I think it's an ingenious way that we show respect and honor for all pedestrians and especially children, so it's a great thing.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, Councilmember Keener.
So this doesn't relate to the crosswalks. The windows back there anywhere open?
There is no such thing.
Hot.
They're like molded shut, I think.
Okay, and I
Yeah,
don't
we're
have
gonna
any
shut
cards
that
from the
one down
public,
over
so
there.
I'm going to bring it back to council. Did you have another comment, or
No, I was going to
Okay.
move approval.
Okay, move approval.
Of everything except
Item number 8. Okay,
Second.
okay. We have a first and a second. Please vote.
Did I forget to vote? Sorry.
And that passes 5-0. So now we'll
Probably
go
wanna
to
clear
item
those.
number 8. I think that's how we're going to go about addressing this. And that is a memorandum of understanding with Teamsters Local 856 Miscellaneous Bargaining Unit. And the proposed action is to move approval of the memorandum of understanding as presented. So I have some comments from council. Councilmember Neihardt?
I wanted to just say thank you to the bargaining team and thank you to 856. It's been a long time, and I am very, very pleased that, should we vote positively, which I think is a given, but I don't know, you never know. But I'm very pleased with what everybody came to develop a 3-year contract to finally get us out of this cycle of annual. And I understand what it takes. I understand that everybody had to give something. I understand from the employee's perspective, personally being a federal employee, I probably understand more than you might think. And so consequently, I really want to say how grateful I am to both sides of the table, and just thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem DeGree?
Yes, we really do appreciate the employees more ways than one, so we're very happy to be in a good place. Thank you very much.
And again, I'd like to say, I really want to express my appreciation for the negotiating team, for the staff that do tremendous things for our city, and they're very loyal and dedicated, and they've, for the past, since I think it was 2011, they haven't had a pay raise, so finally this year we were able to address that. And I would also just like to say that one of the primary goals is really to keep our staff so we are getting the best, and I really truly believe that we are getting the most qualified and talented people here, and that means so much to us. And they sacrificed a great deal, and we worked well together to come up with something that we can all live with and afford, and that's a great thing. The collaboration was really excellent this year, so thank you so much for everybody. Councilmember Keener?
I think the deal was very fair for both sides, and I especially want to call out our lead negotiator, Carol, and say just what a tremendous job she did. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember O'Neill?
Yeah, I'd really like to thank the employees for their understanding in the situation the government, the city's facing with rising pension costs, and they had also addressed some of the things in regards to rising healthcare costs, which I know a lot of employers are, and big issues facing cities, counties, and private industries in the world. And I really want to thank our employees for addressing that, taking the bull by the horns, actually going up the full measure of what the state legislation was for pension reform, and being a part of it and being a partner with the city instead of acrimonious. So that they can trust us for 3 years, we trust them, and I think it's really good being a partner versus what has been the norm for the past couple years. So I do really want to thank Carol, our bargaining team, and I see somebody back there from the bargaining team in the union. So thank you very much. It's very much appreciated.
Mayor Pro Tem DeGree?
Oh, you already called me.
Okay, did you already talk?
I just wanted to move approval.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay, I have a first and a second. Please vote. And that passes 5-0. That's excellent. Okay, tonight we have 2 public hearings, and I would like to remind the audience of a few procedural requests. And one is that when we have a speaker up at the podium, I'd very, very much appreciate if there was no applause or booing going on. This is out of courtesy to the speaker, as well as time considerations and fairness. I think it's very important that everybody is represented equally at the podium, and so I very much appreciate if you could follow those guidelines. If you do speak out of order, I will ask everybody to quiet down. I'll use the gavel, and if that doesn't help, I'm going to have a recess. So I really do appreciate everybody moving along with the guidelines that we are requesting of you tonight. And I would also like to say I'm grateful that you're all here and participating in our council meetings. So anyway, the first public hearing is conduct public hearing and adopt a resolution confirming the annual report from the Pacifica Hotel Business Improvement District, approving the program of expenditures and assessing the levy for fiscal year 2015-2016 at the same rates levied in fiscal year 2014-15 without change. Staff report, please.
Honorable Mayor and council members, the annual report for the Pacifica Hotel Business Improvement District, or BID, was filed with the city clerk as required by the California Streets and Highways Code, Section 36533. The report was prepared by the Chamber of Commerce, acting as the managing agency for the hotels in the BID, and on behalf of the advisory committee. A resolution of intention to continue the BID program and levy the annual assessments for fiscal year 2015-16 was passed by a 5-0 vote at the June 22, 2015 City Council meeting. This action kept the 2015-16 levy rate at the same level as was levied in fiscal year 2014-15. The public hearing date was set for this council meeting of July 13, 2015. Written and oral protests to the levy of the annual assessments may be made at the public hearing in the form and manner prescribed in sections 36625 and 36626 of the California Streets and Highway Code up until the close of the public hearing.
Thank you. And we have a representative here.
Marty Searles is here if you have any questions.
Courtney couldn't make it tonight, so you get me.
Okay, well, thank you very, very much for coming and being here, if anybody has any questions. So you have nothing you'd like to say right now, or you're going to wait for questions?
Well, I'll wait for questions.
Okay, great, thank you very much. Okay, Mayor Pro Tem DeGree?
No, that's from the last
I'm
second.
not doing good on this. Okay, do I have any questions from council? Councilmember Keener.
We asked all our questions 2 weeks ago, so no questions.
They'll be the same answers.
Yeah.
Probably the same questions.
Okay, it doesn't appear that I have any questions, so with that, I'm going to open the public hearing. And I don't believe I have any cards for this item. Does anybody in the audience have any questions regarding this public hearing item? If nobody does, I'm going to close public hearing and bring it back to council.
Madam Mayor, if I may, before the close of the public hearing, the city clerk has not received any written protest as of this evening.
Okay, great. Thank you for that information as well. Okay, so I'm closing public hearing. Anybody have any comments? Okay, would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the statement as written.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Please vote. And that passes 5-0.
Thanks for coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for everything. Okay, we have one other public hearing. It's item number 11. Consideration of Planning Commission approval of specific plan SP 151-15 for the construction of a 4,238 square foot single-family residence on Lot 2 of the development known as Harmony at 1, located at Fassler and Roberts Road, APN 022-150-460, as called up for review pursuant to Pacifica Municipal Code Section 2-1.133. So with that, I would like to get some clarity as to the process. This is a somewhat unique process in the fact that it was called up for review from a council member, and it is not an appeal. And if you can provide clarification about the process going forward from here.
Certainly. This is a procedure that is specifically authorized under our code, as you mentioned, and it allows any council member to call up for review any decision of a lower body, in this case, the Planning Commission, mainly because the individual council member believes that this is a decision that is best decided by the full council as opposed to being ultimately decided by the Planning Commission. It is not like an appeal because there is no appellant. There is nobody who is actually challenging the decision of the Planning Commission. It is simply an item where one of the council members, in this case, Councilmember Keener, who has felt that this issue is one more appropriately determined ultimately by the full council.
Okay, great. So with that, I'll get a staff report and then ask the applicant if he has any comments to make, and he'll have 10 minutes to make those comments along with a 3-minute rebuttal.
That mic doesn't work.
Tina, can you move it closer?
You need to switch out the mics. We need to actually fix that one, or remove it.
Is this working?
Much better.
So as I said, my name is Tina Wehrmeister, and I'm the planning director, and I wanted to make a couple introductions before I continue. First, to my right is Miles Hancock. Miles is a consulting green building professional to the city of Pacifica, and Miles is a Greenpoint rater. He's a HERS rater, a building inspector, and a certified energy analyst. And Miles is the owner of Energy Design Group and is a California Building Energy Efficiency Standards instructor at the College of San Mateo. And to my left, I have Planning Commissioner Rich Campbell. He's our chair currently. And he was selected to be the liaison to this meeting in case there are any questions about the deliberations at the Planning Commission meeting when this was considered. So before you is consideration of the Planning Commission's approval of specific plan SP 15115 for the construction of an approximately 4,200 square foot single-family residence on Lot 2 of the development known as Harmony at 1, located at Fassler and Roberts Road. As a brief background on the project currently under construction, on October 15, 2007, the Planning Commission certified an environmental impact report and approved a tentative subdivision map, development plan use permit, and site development permit to subdivide the property. On November 13, 2007, the City Council approved the rezoning and development plan for the project. The Pacifica Municipal Code requires that a specific plan be approved prior to the issuance of a building permit on any parcel zoned planned development or within a defined hillside preservation district. On April 6th of this year, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider the proposed specific plan. The Planning Commission reviewed the proposal, and the majority of the Commission's discussion centered on whether or not the proposal complies with Harmony at 1 condition number 27, which states, as proposed by the applicant, all new buildings shall be designed and constructed to attain all necessary points to achieve LEED certification and shall seek to obtain a gold standard whenever possible. So before I continue, I just wanted to provide a very general background for those in the audience who may not be familiar with LEED or Greenpoint rated. These are independent third-party methods of quantifying sustainability. Each method has different criteria assigned to specific construction measures that awards points for installing and or complying with the green measure. One of the main criteria of both methods is to exceed the California energy standards as a mandatory requirement. So the applicant's proposal for Lot 2 did not include LEED certification, and instead proposed to obtain a score of 152 on the Greenpoint rating system, which, as I mentioned, is an alternative to LEED. The applicant will explain their justification in greater detail during their presentation, but in summary, they asked the Planning Commission to consider the wording of condition number 27, which they argued is vague, The applicant stated that the term "whenever possible" at the end of the condition could be interpreted to apply to the entire condition. Nonetheless, the applicant does agree that the intent is to require green building practices for the Harmony subdivision, and therefore propose to use the Green Point rating system. The applicant goes on to explain that at one time, the city of Pacifica did have a green building ordinance, and that green building ordinance essentially said that LEED Gold certification or 100 points on the Green Point rating system would be acceptable for this level of project. So you could think of it as, at one point, the city thought that those are roughly similar or the same. After lengthy discussion, the Planning Commission determined that the LEED standard is what condition number 27 required, and a motion carried to approve the specific plan with a condition clarifying that the home on Lot 2 shall be constructed to LEED Gold standard and achieve at least 100 points on the Green Point rating system. So with that, staff's recommendation is that the City Council approve the specific plan with the clarifying condition that the Planning Commission placed on the project. I'd be happy to answer any question.
Didn't hear the last word.
The last sentence, can you repeat?
That our recommendation is that the City Council approve the specific plan, including the clarifying condition that Planning Commission placed on the project, which I can reread again, which is the home on Lot 2 shall be constructed to LEED Gold standard and achieve at least 100 points on the Green Point rating system.
Great, thank you. I could take questions now and then ask for the applicant to come up.
I just wanted to clarify one statement that you made, Tina. You said at one point, I mean, since I've been up here, we passed a green building ordinance, so that's not still in effect?
The Green Point, the Pacifica Green Building Ordinance sunsetted, so it is no longer in effect.
But what is in effect?
What is in effect is the California Green Building Code.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make that clear. I already knew the answer.
Okay, I'd like to invite our applicant to come up
Do
and
that.
Javier to provide you have 10 minutes to speak in regards to the program, and then you'll also have the chance for a 3-minute rebuttal. And if anybody has questions, we'd appreciate if you could also answer those as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Honorable Members of City Council. My name is Javier Chavarria, and I'm with JC Engineering. We've been doing engineering in Pacifica for the last 25 years, and I'm also a longtime resident of this town. I have a presentation that I had prepared with some images and projections, if you care to look at those images. Otherwise, I can just make my verbal presentation. So,
If there's a preference, would you like to see the presentation? How difficult would it be to set up that presentation?
it'll take me about 3 minutes to set up the projector and the screen.
But do we have a projector?
I do have a
Legal-
projector.
are we
Right.
legal- are
You
we
have
okay
it.
legally?
Yes.
Oh,
Sure, it's 10
we have a
minutes.
stand.
I just don't know if we have a projector. Otherwise,
We don't.
we have a,
He has a projector.
I have everything that is needed to set it up. So if you choose
Time's
it,
being used up.
okay. No, we're saying that we'd love just to hear what you have to say. We don't need the presentation at this
Perfect.
time. Thanks.
well, I'm going to start with the same sentence that I started at the Planning Commission meeting, which is, it's been a long time. This project was conceptualized in 2005, went to the Planning Commission and finally got approved in 2007. We got the final map approved in 13, and finally in 2014, we were able to break ground. So tonight we're here to hopefully culminate the process and start the actual construction of the homes for which the project was intended. In California, we have a beautiful coastline. We have beautiful homes from Mendocino to LA, but I don't think there is any site as beautiful as the one we have in Pacifica. And therefore, we have taken that as a responsibility to create and to make a beautiful, sustainable project that we residents of Pacifica can be proud of. When the project was initially approved in 2007, green architecture, it was the new thing. It was an idea that was beginning to evolve. In 2015, there has been a substantial evolution from that initial baby that we had in 2007. Back then, LEED was kind of the only game in town. Different ideas came about, different elements were brought into the equation to the point that the state and the government had to do something, and then the California Green Building Code was created. Before, what was green? Well, if you had 7 people in a room, there were 7 different ideas of what was green and what was good. Are we here to save energy? Are we here to protect the health of the occupants? Are we here to do something nicer and better? Now, a building code that we have to follow, regardless of what we get approved in here, we still have to comply with the 2014 California Green Building Code. So therefore, there has been a standard set. Closer to the conceptuals of the California Green Building Code is the Green Point Rated System, which is a system that helps guide you through the process of creating a green building without incurring with the time-consuming and expensive elements that LEED imposes on a project. Let's remember that LEED is not a government-sanctioned organism or mechanism. The U.S. Green Building Council is a nonprofit but very much for-profit organization, where if we do a project in here, all the fees that you have to pay is money that should be spent making our building beautiful rather than making and paying some fees. We are committed to creating projects that comply with our code, that go above and beyond the requirements that were established with the conditions of approval. We have good faith in the Green Point rating system, and I know the city has professionals well qualified that will evaluate our proposal and come up to the conclusion that our project is meeting the intent of those approvals. We do not have any objections to making our project green, to making our project sustainable, to make our project the best project in the California coastline. We have a problem to spending unnecessary money. We have a problem continuing to delay a project that is being substantially delayed for something that is not going to give us anything better than what we currently have. When the project was approved, along the construction of the streets and all, there were many conditions imposed. We have done our best to meet every condition, and when a condition is not possible to be met, we have an alternative that is equal or better than that. The homes are designed following the design guidelines that were offered. The homes are designed to have a profile similar to the one that was approved. And we believe that the architecture of the homes that is proposed is more in line with the current demands of the public, is more in line with the current requirements of green architecture, and is more in line with today's living style and today's building materials. Therefore, we believe that the project as presented, that the project as approved by the Planning Commission is a project that is a good one. It's a project that meets the intent of the conditions of approval, and it's a project that should continue, because the longer that this project is delayed, the more disturbs, the more problems that it's going to create to the neighbors in the site. We had a meeting with the Homeowners Association from Roberts Road, and they were imploring that we can start constructing. They understand, and we work well with them. But the sooner that the project is completed, the sooner that the headache of construction goes away. And it doesn't matter how great of a builder you are, and we're proud to say that we have a great local builder, but construction always creates inconveniences and problems. We're doing our best to keep those inconveniences to a minimum. We're doing our best to get closer to that finish line of building beautiful homes for Pacifica. I think in a nutshell, that's what my presentation had. I had some other visuals in reference to the appearance of the home, to some of the conditions, but I would be happy to answer any question that you may have and be a little more focused rather than staggering around all the different aspects of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and if you could stay near just in case we do have some questions for you. And do any of the council members right now have questions? Yeah, Councilmember Keener.
This is a little off topic. So, one of the conditions, condition number 22, so this is different from the lead condition, says every home will be bermed to minimize visual impact, and part of condition number 22, there's 3 pages of that condition or so, maybe more. And the bullet point following that says, locate structures to minimize off-site views. Every house has been excavated lower to hide the home, and many other specific strategies to minimize the visual impact. Have you already excavated for the pad and formed the berm?
Absolutely. The plans that we present incorporate the creation of an artificial berm to minimize the profile of the home. The actual physical excavation hasn't taken place on site, because we cannot do any grading until we obtain an actual permit for each one of the homes. Nevertheless, the plans that we presented incorporate the location of the home at a lower elevation than the pad that was approved during the permit processing of the entire application. The berms are incorporated exactly as required in the original approvals.
Okay. I have questions for...
Go ahead.
Yeah. I have a question for Miles, and I didn't catch your last name, but...
Hancock.
So are you qualified in LEED as well as Greenpoint?
No, I'm not. Not for LEED.
Okay. So now I have a question for Tina. Didn't the Planning Commission say that that they would track LEED points also along with green points?
Right. So what I was attempting to do by asking Mr. Hancock to come is to have somebody here who could answer some technical questions of the City Council. I haven't issued a RFP for a LEED certified person yet, because I think the project needs to get approved. The Lot 2 needs to get their final approvals, and then we would be doing that. The person who, the consultant who would be reviewing the plans would need to be LEED qualified and would be looking at the plans as well as doing inspections for the city.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
I just had a quick question, and I just want to clarify so I understand the situation that we are considering. While not attaining LEED Gold certification, it has been agreed by the applicant that they would, not achieving the certification, they would be attaining the number of points that would basically be identical to having LEED Gold certification. They just would be doing it without the actual certificate.
That's correct.
Okay. What is the difference? What is there, are we doing anything to change what we wanted back in 2007? What is the consequence of not having that certification if we could in fact prove we have the points necessary to meet LEED Gold certification?
Well, the difficulty now is that you need to meet a REACH standard for the energy efficiency, which is Title 24, Part 6.
Okay.
So you can't, as a jurisdiction, require a REACH standard without having filed that standard with the state. And one has not been filed as you are enforcing strictly Cal Green, which is Title 24, Part 11. So once you enforce only Cal Green, you don't enforce a REACH standard, you meet the standard which is set by the state.
Clarify that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
What
Title
does that
20
mean?
Title 24.
What's a REACH standard?
REACH standard
Talk to
is-
me like I'm 6.
Okay. Title 24, Title 24, as it's commonly referred to, is our energy standard.
Uh-huh.
Cal Green, which is our state mandated green code, says you will achieve basically 0%. You meet the standard. In order to achieve LEED or Build a Green certification, you must achieve a higher level of energy efficiency, that being a minimum of 10% for Build a Green or a higher level for LEED. It's basically equivalent. Okay, the two standards are essentially equivalent. To achieve gold is 75 points. To achieve a certified level is 45 points. These are both for LEED. Okay, so the minimum standard for Build a Green is 50 points, and it goes up from there.
Okay, so what is it that we would have had to file with the state?
It's called
That's
a-
the part I wanted to explain.
Sure. It is called a local modification to the energy efficiency requirements. So you would have to have facts and findings and a reasonable cost basis to say this is what we want to do.
So if we as a city want to go further than Cal Green, we need to file that with the state,
Not necessarily Cal Green, with the energy efficiency standards,
with the energy efficiency
which is
standards.
part of the green requirements.
Okay, just that piece.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then I just had another question in terms of, in order to get LEED certification, if anybody could have a general idea about the cost per house that this would be, and maybe the time restraints it would cost to achieve LEED over what they've agreed to in condition of approval 27.
Well, from the actual paper certificate, LEED is actually less expensive by $225. So the certificate itself costs $225 from USGBC, United States Green Building Council. It is $450 from Build a Green. The difference is Build a Green, you can look at Build a Green, Greenpoint Raters, which is what I have my certification in.
Right.
We can be looked at as designers, and raters for LEED would be looked at more like an architect.
Okay.
So an architect typically charges more money than a designer, and that's where the difference in cost comes into play. It's what the market will bear, and when you go for LEED, the market has to bear a higher level of cost.
Okay.
It's for lack of a better term, it's Mercedes versus Cadillac.
Right, right. So we don't have any exact idea about how much it might cost. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, certainly. As far as the cost, we have obtained estimates for LEED certified professionals to run our jobs, and our estimate minimum cost is about $25,000 per home.
Okay.
And let alone the additional time that it takes for the testing and on-site inspections that are required. So the overall impact on each one of the homes could range between $25,000 and $50,000 per home.
Okay, and so, sounds like maybe 300 to 400,000 for all of the houses it would cost to go with LEED over the green, potentially.
Green is a more expeditious process. It doesn't require as many testing. It's a simpler and less bureaucratic format. So you still have the inspection and the evaluation of a qualified professional. You don't have to just start paying money to New York for all the additional testing and filings and inspections that you have to do.
Okay, but, right, okay. And let's see if I had any others. Oh, I just had a basic question about how the Planning Commission felt on when they made that determination. And did they feel that the intent of, the condition of approval number 27 was being met by the agreement that was made on the night of their decision?
Yeah, I was on the Planning Commission in 2007 when we passed this condition.
Great to have.
And the condition was similar to conditions that we passed for the McDonald's at Manor and the Walgreens at Manor, which was to design it and build it to a LEED standard. And so we felt at the last Planning Commission meeting that this, if they would build, design, and construct it to meet the LEED standard, that would be consistent with what we've done in the past, with a caveat that it would be important to make sure that it is actually designed and constructed and built to that LEED standard. I may be wrong, but I don't know if I don't think we were ever provided evidence that the McDonald's or the Walgreens, for example, at Manor was ever indeed built, designed, or constructed to LEED standard. So this time around, it would be useful to make sure we get that, just to verify.
Okay, great. Okay, take these questions. Councilmember Nyhart.
Can you actually provide that comparison, or somebody like you provide that comparison to LEED, even though you're not LEED certified, or does that have to go?
Absolutely. I have the checklist, the costs. LEED created LEED for homes, where it was typically prior it was for commercial buildings. LEED created LEED for homes to decrease the cost of certification criteria, because they know people can't afford $25,000, $30,000 for a certification of a residence.
Councilmember Keener?
No.
No, sorry about that.
No, it's my fault.
Another question, have any other variances or any changes to any of the other conditions of approval on this project been made as of this date? This is the only change that's been made.
Well, I think technically the housing in lieu fee, so they satisfied the affordable housing requirement in a different way. So I think that technically that is a change, but that is the only other one I'm aware of that was approved by council.
Great, thank you. Councilmember O'Neill.
To the applicant, if we were to go along with the Planning Commission's decision, are you planning to have this change in the requirements or conditions for every house? Or, so like we're going to get this 9 more times? Because it's 10 houses, if I remember correct, right? So
Correct.
are we going to be having this conversation 9 more times then?
Well, we want to do all the homes in the same manner, in the same order. So yes, we are not going to do, if you choose to let us proceed with the recommendation of the Planning Commission, then we will request the same to apply to the remaining of the homes.
Okay, I don't see any other questions up here, so I'm going to open the public hearing. And with that, I'm going to invite Tom Clifford to come up and speak, followed by Henry Fickers and Mary Ann Plum.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, staff. First point is that LEED has also evolved. We're now at LEED's version for homes number 4. It's not like time stood still for LEED's. It has evolved. It has now improved and is asking for things that are considered green now, not what was considered green in 2007. I felt the introduction of the Greenpoint system by the representatives of the Harmony at One has only served to cloud and confuse the issue. Using the city's sunsetted green building ordinance and Cal Green codes, which is a minimum standard, It's not the top of the line, it's the minimum standard for green building. To bring this green point system into play, because it was never, I don't know if it existed in 2007, it may have, but it was clear at that point in time that both the applicant and the community signed off on leads, getting the highest leads possible. And I'll read this from the letter of commitment. The letter of commitment, which came from the original applicants, clearly states, now I'm quoting, required integration of LEED standards into the project based on professional advice from a LEED certified expert to achieve the highest level of LEED certification. This is what the public signed off on, this is what you signed off on, and this is what the applicant proposed in his letter of commitment. To change the game now on the public is not fair. They worked really hard with you guys. They worked hard with the developer. And this idea that not getting the certificate, but somehow getting all the points is the same thing, it's not. This gentleman here, or whoever is doing it, is not going to be doing those inspections, or at least not as many of them. Those are important. They actually have on-site verification that these things are done, not just somebody checking it off on the plans and saying, oh, yep, they got that point. This is really, I guess I'm just really not concerned about their cost. It only comes up to 1% of per house. 1% of a $5 million home. That's not a huge amount of outlay in terms of getting what you promised the public. Thank you very much.
You? I have Henry Fickers, followed by Mary Ann Plum, and then Ann Administer.
Good evening. My name is Henry Fickers. I'm the owner of 215 Roberts Road. I'm a member of the Dolphin Point Homeowners Association, and I'm here to say that I don't understand what the problem is. Okay, we got that project, that hill behind us was for sale for a long time. The poor guy owned it, went broke, somebody else bought it, okay? In the meantime, it was used for motorcycle riders, four-wheel riders, and a dog run. Somebody finally came along. Now, what happened, I can't figure out. I've worked with Javier, and I own several other places in town. I've worked with Javier. You know, he figures everything's out. Nobody would have dug a spoonful of dirt in that place unless the lawyers and everybody else would have signed off on it. Your planning commission said, hey, you're good to go. I'm sure there must have been more than one meeting regarding this thing. So what this delay is about, I have no idea. All I know is that it's going to cost money. The city stands to get $700,000 a year in taxes from these places. You figure $65,000 a unit, a little bit more, 10 units. Okay, so that's income coming. Now we got a choice. We can the city can either say, okay, we're going to hold back, we're going to delay the project, we're going to cost a lot of money, and I'll guarantee you that the lawyers for the developer have already drawn up the papers. They'll be tripping over themselves trying to get to the court. You know, I mean, the thing was set, it's here. Now, just because some Johnnies come lately want to go, well, gee, you know, we got to have this, we got to have that. You're talking about $5 million homes. It ain't exactly a project. Okay, I'm sure that everything will be getting taken care of. As far as some of the public here that, you know, figured $25,000 to the unit, that's nothing, not much. You know, that's crazy. The thing was set. You got to do business, okay? Here we go. We got the plans. 4 or 5 years, we worked on it. Everything was signed off on it, you know. And you can't even see the places from the hill. The only thing that bothers me is I used to live on a good side of the street, and I'll be living on the bad side of the street because of those units. But other than that, it's crazy to withhold the latest project anymore. So, you know, that's all I guess. I still got 50 minutes. All right, 60 seconds. Because my problem is that, you know, businesses are going out of town. You just said we had no money for crossing guards and stuff like that. Now, are we going to, I was going to say a bad word, away that kind of dough, and we're going to spend a lot of money on lawyers? You know, because that's going to be pretty tough to explain to people, saying, hey, well, you know, we got no money. They couldn't fix a lousy pothole on one of my places in Hiawatha. We had to, my neighbors and I had to do it myself, because they didn't have the money, you know. So it's crazy. I say, go ahead with the thing, get it done. It's a great project, you know. It ain't public housing, so and they're going to have some good people moving in there. You're not going to have no real slugs moving in those places. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. So next is Mary Ann Plum, followed by Ann Edminster and, oh God, I can't see that well. Brother, can you read that?
When do I start? Now?
You can go ahead and start. Sorry
Okay.
about that.
As you said, I'm Mary Ann Plum. I live right across the street from the Harmony at 1 in the Dolphin Point townhomes. My husband actually is the president and couldn't be here tonight because he's sick, but all of you should have gotten a copy, at least on the council, of the petition that the Homeowners Association put together supporting this change. And what we wanted to say is that we're the most affected by the construction, the debris, the unsightliness of the construction. We want it to happen quickly. This development is going to happen. It's not going to get stopped. It's just going to get drug out. And there are some people in Pacifica who seem to think that, oh, any delay would be great because this is a thing for rich people, and if we can drag it out, that'll be great. But that's just wrong. I mean, we're the people that are suffering through it, not them living up in Fairmont or wherever they are. We really support the Planning Commission's interpretation of paragraph 27, and we feel that if LEED certification is demanded with the full bureaucracy and certification, that it's going to delay the project at least weeks and probably months. That means all that disturbance will be going on for all that time. Additionally, if the infrastructure is completed and the rest of the construction isn't started, you have an attractive nuisance. We already have a problem, on Roberts Road, where we have a lot of graffiti and trash and drinking and drugs and just general misbehavior up there. As soon as you leave something like that vacant, people will be up there vandalizing it. They'll be up there putting graffiti on it. They'll be stealing the pipes. Leaving it without going forward is really unacceptable. Plus, if El Nino happens the way it's forecast, we have a situation of potentially having the whole site have a lot of damage because nothing's happening. Mud and runoff right into our development, because there are driveways directly across the street from our driveway. And anyway, I have 1 minute to go. So the other thing I was going to point out is we don't get any income until we have people buying the houses. And if there is a lawsuit, we stand to be once again in the position of paying money instead of making money. So I ask you all, please approve the Planning Commission's decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. Ann Edminster, Angelita Avenue, Pacifica. I have the unusual opportunity tonight to appear here, not opposing or supporting the project, but as a green building expert. I've been working in this field for 22 years, and I have LEED for Homes Green Rater since day one. I was the first qualified LEED for Homes instructor. I chaired the development of LEED for Homes for the U.S. Green Building Council. I am dual qualified as a Greenpoint Rater and a LEED for Homes Green Rater. I would posit that there's probably not a person on the planet that meets my qualifications in this area. So I'm here to, I hope, set the record straight on a number of factual points. First of all, I think the Planning Commission's requirement in the original approval was not at all ambiguous. The language was very accurate and precise for someone who is knowledgeable about these programs. Secondly, gold is entirely possible. In fact, it's rather difficult for a project in the Bay Area not to achieve gold if they have the remotest interest in achieving it, including affordable housing, let alone luxury. Verification by a qualified LEED for Homes Green Rater is an integral requirement of LEED, and that includes 19 prerequisites, only one of which is a mandatory requirement in Greenpoint Rated. So points are by no means the whole story. Greenpoint is a 300-point plus system. LEED is a 100-point plus system. You cannot multiply. There's a much more complicated process of determining equivalency. And a Greenpoint rating project does not require those 19 prerequisites. If it did, those would, in fact, take all the cost and time that is claimed any other process would. Speaking of cost, not that we technically should be considering that, actually the cost of a LEED certification is $925 as compared to $450 for Greenpoint. The difference is $475, which is less than 1%, no, 1/100th of 1% of the cost of construction. The process is the same. It is done typically by the same people, charging the same rates, speaking as one, and if all the features are the same, it is essentially an identical process, simply processed by a different agency. That is all. So, in summary, all but certified is really a bit of a red herring. Without the actual certification, you can say LEED all you want. If I'm an accountant and I don't take the CPA exam and pass it, I don't get to call myself a CPA. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Ron Makel? Followed by Mary Keitelman and Scott Ceramelli.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Council, and staff. Ron Makel, longtime resident here in Pacifica. Beautiful day today. I was on the Planning Commission when this project was approved, and it was unanimously approved by the Commission and unanimously approved by the Council and the community. Believe it or not, this is one of the few development projects of this type where wasn't a polarized situation. Everybody came together on this. And the word harmony wasn't just as a matter of harmonizing with the environment, it was also harmonizing with each other, the political parties in harmony on this project. So this is I think that, you should, keeping with the spirit of the Planning Commission and the councilors, I think there's really maybe only one of you up there, maybe Sue, who actually was a council person that approved this, but nonetheless, I think keeping with the LEEDs thing, let's stick with it. Okay, I have the original 2007 staff report and all the conditions, and it talks about, full certified LEED standards, and I am a little concerned. I walk my dog up there from time to time, and I noticed that they've got hard, very hard, heavy sidewalks, and they're supposed to be permeable sidewalks. Okay, so right there's an issue. And I hope we don't have to hire an oversight person to go up there to make sure that all these 38 conditions here are being met within the spirit of the people of this community, the Planning Commission, and the Council. This is important, okay? And we're in a seller's market anyway. I mean, whenever any improvements made to these houses gets passed on to the buyer anyway, so what's the big deal, So this was a big deal. It was really important for this community. We're trying to change the way we do things in development here, and you have the opportunity to be part of that. So I just want to say that, and thank you all, really. I know this isn't an easy thing, but I appreciate what you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Scott Ceramelli? Oh, Mary Keitelman, sorry about that, Mary.
Thank you for the opportunity. I had some prepared remarks, but after listening to what everyone is saying, my main point is that we deserve number one here, Pacifica. We're not second best. Let's not go cheap here. We need to keep the good, to build, to deliver a solid, excellent reputation. These buildings are incredible. Why would you want to cheapen out? The points made by Ann Edminster and Ron Makel, I definitely 100% agree with. For one moment here, I want to just say I was looking at the November or 2007 document, and in the letter of commitment, this is a request for a change. The word Autobahn should be changed to Audubon, A-U-D-U-B-O-N, in item 5E. They say they're going to do a bird sanctuary and that they're going to actively work with experts, and they say the Autobahn Society, it's the Audubon Society. And that should be corrected. The Autobahn is a fun thing, no doubt, to race on in Germany. But the Audubon Society is responsible for protecting birds. I'm going to give you my letter here so you can read the details. The main thing is I did read the EIR, and I happened to be free that night, so I came to City Council, and there were a few hundred people here, and they all cheered. The developers, builders, the couple hundred people, because of the many, and I think there were about 78 conditions that were hammered out and agreed on. So I just don't think Pacifica should, this project is visible from almost anywhere on the coast here. It literally, it's a new face of Pacifica. It is the de facto brand of Pacifica. People, when this is finished, and it's beautiful, it's going to represent this town. And we are not second best, we're best. And when it comes to purchasing a $5 million home, people do know the difference. In fact, whether it's gold LEED certified or Greenpoint, people who are paying the money for that kind of thing do understand it. And it makes it more or less marketable, it's more or less saleable. Ultimately, it's more or less valuable. We want to make ourselves, an incredible community. Going forward with this project, the way it was proposed, as proposed by the applicant, all new buildings shall be designed and constructed to attain all necessary points to achieve LEED certification, and shall seek to obtain a gold standard.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
Wherever possible.
Thank
we
you.
all know what gold means. Here's a copy.
Caramelli, followed by Michael Ransom and Nancy Hall.
Hi, all. I think what kept coming through my mind when I thought about this meeting and why we were talking about all this was, is this the hill we want to die on? I just think that there's a couple things that concern me about this, and I'm wondering about the motivation for wanting to add this layer of oversight, if that's indeed what we're doing. And I'm still a little confused about that, because some people talk about whether it was mentioned in the document to be LEED certified, or whether it was just be Greenpoint rated, or whether it was just to be meet LEED standards. So again, I would support the Planning Commission's decisions. I've heard a few comments. A lot of people have been negative about the project. And it sort of bothers me, because everybody that complains about development on a hillside does so from a piece of property where a house sits where a bulldozer once drove over. So I'm just a little concerned about that. I also, and my concern for this grievance is it's twofold. And I guess the first thing would be, is the grievance worthy of the time and energy it's taking away from other projects that might be more beneficial to the city of Pacifica? And will this action cause delays in the completion of this project? And what are the ramifications of those delays? I heard somebody speak earlier about we're in a seller's market. How long are we in a seller's market? Those markets change. And if we cause delays in the project, it's possible we could be pushed to a different kind of market. And municipalities have been sued in the past for delay of game tactics that have caused measurable losses to developers. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Nancy Hall? Oh, no, Michael Ransom.
City Council, my name is Mike Ransom. I'm a professionally licensed civil engineer. I'm also a LEED accredited professional. And so I just wanted to really echo Ann Edmeister's comments from earlier that there is a difference between LEED Gold and CA Green qualification, and the LEED Gold is a higher level of standard, and that's what we determined that we wanted in 2007. and I've attended the Planning Commission meetings, and I have not heard some compelling reason to step back or step backwards from that standard. And so I think the LEED gold should be held as a requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy Hall, followed by Kevin Russell and Tate Cowan.
Hi. It's going to be hard for me to get everything I need to say in 3 minutes because I am one of the co-authors of the conditions of approval. I worked for over a year very closely with the proposal of Harmony at One. I helped to develop the project, the language around the project, and I helped write the conditions of approval. I really take exception to the idea that we are somehow creating, tactics to slow the project down. This project was approved faster than any project I've ever seen in Pacifica, lightning speed. And the reason for that is because Pacificans for Sustainable Development, mostly myself was the main lead person in that. I worked tirelessly with the developer to say, listen, we've been fighting for years. We have to block every development that comes. We're sick of it. We want to create something we can all agree on. They stepped up and they said, yeah, let's do this. Let's make this a flagship environmental project. We consulted with Ann Edminster. We went on field trips around the state of California to see other green developments. We did everything we could to make this what the developer was putting forward. They proposed the flagship gold standard of environmental project. That was their idea and that is their language. And just to be clear, Number 27 of the conditions of approval, it says, as proposed by the applicant, all the new buildings shall be designed and constructed to attain LEED certified at a minimum and strive for a gold standard whenever possible. It doesn't say attain LEED certified whenever possible. That was a confusion early on. It says to attain LEED certified at a minimum and strive for a gold standard whenever possible. That means going to the highest level. When I do work on my home, I have to have the building inspector come and inspect my home.
Nancy,
right?
I think that your 3 minutes are up.
Okay. I would like to make myself available to answer questions about this because I wrote these conditions of approval and I understand how they work, how they're supposed to work. Thank you.
Kevin Russell, followed by Tate Cowan, and then Dan Stedjink.
Hello, my name's Kevin Russell. I'm a 43-year Pacifica resident and the owner of Centric Construction, and I'm the builder for the project. So I just wanted everyone to know that I've had many conversations with the developer. He's committed to using local labor, local subcontractors, and has hired me to do the construction. We, as a company, we've built multiple LEED projects and have 3 LEED accredited professionals on staff. I've seen what it takes to build a LEED Gold project, and this developer is going above and beyond that standard. As Ann said, LEED Gold is actually very simple to achieve, and these projects exceed the LEED Gold standard. So whether or not it's necessary to pay the fees, typically what we see on our projects is that commercial clients pay to get the LEED certification because it's important for them in their marketing. Very rarely do I see a residential project actually pay to get certified. Instead, the owners will build to that standard knowing they did the right thing. In summary, we have a nice arsenal of local builders that are ready to go, and I'm looking forward to this project getting approved so I can get started.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tate Cowan.
Good evening. My name's Tate Cowan. Obviously, I was here in 2007 with a few of the people here through this process. And when I started, I mean, it was 10 years ago. I mean, we've evolved. Priuses were barely around. Now we're driving Teslas. I mean, we are evolving. And Ann was to go back in time a little, she was the only, LEED was just getting going. So she was the Pacifica resident where we got started. And those fees are very expensive because I've written consulting checks, and they are expensive. And at the end of the day, a long story short, we're here. It's been 10 years. It seems like we're going back in the past instead of looking at the future where there's new green building opportunities, achieving the same goal. So if there's any questions on the past, please call me back up and we can relive. If not, let's go into the future and get this thing going finally.
Start at the bottom.
Thank you.
Start at the bottom.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Stojnik. I'd like to thank you for hearing me tonight. I'd just like to say if we're ever adding air conditioning to this room or heat, and the contractor says we could put Wi-Fi in here for another $100 a month, I would definitely not be talking in opposition to that. There's a lot of senior people and just visually impaired people that can read, say, a agenda syllabus a lot better off like an iPad or a tablet than they can off a 6 times reprinted version. I'm not going to speak about LEED because I'm not knowledgeable enough to. I was a little confused at the beginning, but I think Tom Clifford cleared it up for me. I'd like to bring my point specifically to what I believe the gentleman named Ron had talked about the permeable concrete and why that's important. When I talk to perhaps a guy that knows more about Pacifica than anybody here who can actually tell you what every manhole cover is, where every hydrant is, Van Ocampos, around this originally, had said, the goal is to leave the water on that hill, because we had complained about the flooding at Anza and Arguello and at the entry to Lindemar. You want to leave the water on the hill so that concrete isn't a giant funnel that creates a mudslide that wipes out Cabrillo and is not just funneling all that water off that hill. We're not taking the permeable grass and green area and just essentially turning it into a giant pitcher that fills Lindemar, and that's why that permeable concrete would be important on the sidewalks. And I'm certainly not aware if it's been done or not, but that would be an important consideration. And I would also like to just thank Mary, who had talked about pursuit of excellence in this community and how it might be helpful in the future. And I certainly applaud that. Thank you.
Thank you. Neil Schwartz. And this is the last card I have, so if anybody else would like to speak on this issue, please make sure to fill out a card.
Thank you. Everybody keeps bringing up what the saleability of these properties are. First of all, they're not $5 million. They're in the mid-4s. But if the council and the planning commission keeps going in the way they're going, they're going to be $7 million homes, and nobody's going to buy them. There were a lot of things that were done on these properties back some time ago. One of the things that you guys wanted was a thatch roof. If you want to put that thatch roof back on top of those homes, then get the rest of the people and let's vote on it. Let's get the thatch roof. The problem is nobody will be able to buy a home up there because they won't be able to get insurance on those homes. No insurance company will insure a thatch roof because they all leak, they all cause problems, they all cause dry rot. So you need to get real. This project's gone on for a long time. And it's going to get delayed, and pretty soon, nobody's going to be buying anything up there, and you're going to have a bunch of empty lots. The developer has assured me, along with everybody else, that he's going to meet all of the environmental LEED certifications. He just doesn't want to pay some guy out of New York to come in every day and inspect and pay $30 or $40 or $50 or $100,000 to have inspections made. The city can make those inspections. We've got something that the city has adopted, which deals with Greenpoint. Accept the Greenpoint standard. If not, and you want to make it LEEDs, then make it every project that goes on in this city. Every single project in the city. And then what you're going to do is you're going to look at the developers as they start to run away from this town, and you're not going to have any developing at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann,
I only spoke for 2 minutes. I got confused about the beeps. Does anybody remember that? I heard one beep, and stopped.
Yeah, that's, I don't think we can do that, Ann. Can I ask the attorney?
Factual
She thinks she only
information. If
spoke-
anybody wants facts, I'm here.
Thank you, that's great. All right. I'm going to close the public hearing unless anybody would like to speak. Okay, with that, I close the public hearing, and I'm bringing it back to council for consideration.
Turn off my light.
Yeah, I know. You turned it on in the middle. Would anyone like to start? Councilmember Keener.
You're looking at me. So first of all, with respect to the delay so far, this hearing was delayed from early June because the owner of the property wanted to be here, and he couldn't make it at that date in early June. And so we changed the date to tonight to accommodate him, and to accommodate the city manager. So, I would like to ask the applicant again just exactly how much the LEED certification will cost, certification now, compared with merely getting the LEED points. Okay?
I'm not understanding the question.
Okay. Two different conditions. One is getting the LEED points, like the Planning Commission has already passed, okay? And the second is going beyond that and obtaining the LEED certificate. What's the difference in cost?
As I expressed before, it's approximately $25,000, because what we are doing to achieve the green point system are similar steps as we're doing to achieve the LEED standard. So to make it very clear, we are not here to diminish the quality of the home. Our intent is not to cut any corners. Our intent is to spend the money where it should be spent. Our intent is to make the home as good as possible. And the $25,000 that we're going to spend on inspections and on delays and on additional charges that are made, we'd rather spend it on putting solar panels. We'd rather spend it on creating an efficient water system. We'd rather spend it on putting permeable pavers, on efficient windows, exceeding Title 24 and all those elements. So we are not against green improvements. We are to build the best possible homes. We are here to stop wasting our resources. The amounts of money that has been spent on biological observations. We had at some point 3 biologists sitting on a chair out there. Is important, absolutely, we understand that. But when we're here not just counting the $25,000 that is counting, the cost of these homes is getting ridiculous. And it's getting ridiculous because of all the different areas that we're trying to get. So it's not that we're getting cheap. It's not that if it was just this $25,000, no problem, we'll go. Excuse me, we will go and do it. It's the chain of elements that has got up to that point that is putting us probably above and beyond what it was originally expected, above and beyond to where the margin that the developer needed to be was. So the cost of the homes is high. And if we continue to spend any additional funds, we're going to market ourselves out of the reasonable pricing of the homes. So in summary, we'd rather spend the money in making the homes better. We are committed to create excellent homes, meeting every single standard. We have qualified professionals in the city here. LEED is not the only game in town. CalGreen has to be implemented. Whether we decide or you decide to enforce LEED, California, 2013 California Building Code still has to be met. We will meet and exceed that standard.
Okay. All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
Sir.
I just wanted to say, I know the applicant is also allowed a 3-minute rebuttal. I don't know if you would like to take the opportunity to have that rebuttal now or wait till after the questions, or?
If I...
Okay. Yeah, so.
The most important question that the honorable council members should ask themselves is, what is our goal in here? Is the goal to make the project more expensive? Is the goal to make this a longer process? Or is the goal to achieve the best possible project? And I reiterate, that is our goal, to make the best possible project. The LEED standards of 2007 were substantially different than the LEED standards that we have today. Yes, LEED has evolved, so has Green Point system, so has the California Building Code. So if you look at the conditions of approval, and we are not changing anyone, we are not making any changes to what it was originally intended, in essence, we are meeting that. In essence, we are exceeding Title 24 requirements. In essence, we are providing the city with a project that we all going to be proud. One of the people that spoke mentioned that buyers at that level are very discriminating. Absolutely. And we're not going to be able to put under the carpet in there something that is cheap. They will have their inspections, they have their documents, they know what they're expecting. And we know what we're selling, we know what we're marketing. Our commitment is to make a very sustainable, environmentally friendly, Pacifica proud project, nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now I'll go back to council comments. Mayor Pro Tem Degree.
Yes, so we had, I believe, 1,000 pages to go through, and for me, it is revisiting 2007 and beyond, because it did involve more than just that particular year. And it also involves HPD, as the paperwork also reminded us to, and that in this community for end upon end, and still is an ordinance here, a very revered ordinance. And so at the time of determining whether any kind of bulldozer should go into the hills here, it was an extremely sobering process. And the documents, as well as some of the people, have reiterated, and I'm a paper person, so if you don't mind, the page I'm going from here is page 350 and 11B. It's the checkoff list for Harmony at 1. I won't read it all, but pretty much this is the basis of what I interpret as the fundamental thing going here. And the fundamental thing is that this development as a whole, this whole thing, the intent of the public, which got the concurrence of the Planning Commission and the existing council unanimously, and it wasn't won easily, but based on the fact that it was so totally expected and designed to be very different not just in looks, but different in standards, that the standard was to be above and beyond, the standard was to lead, to create a very high standard. So much so that words like hallmark and things like that pale in the reality of it. It was meant to be a template so precise and so well formed and agreed to and strict for its adherence that people all around the nation would come here to learn about it. It was expected that they would be ushered personally, not by me, but by the owner and company, to go in and actually touch and feel and see on the ground, and to learn exactly how this process and all its details and consensus came to be. So the standard isn't just LEED. LEED was like the very minimum standard, and it was, as I mentioned several times and in the documents, was to go for the gold standard. But I'm trying to focus on the reality of the whole process. This whole development together, the process, the finalization, was all to be above and beyond, to the point of starting something new as a high, high standard, worthy of admiration and copying. And it was to bring people here in such a way that we would definitely be on the map, and also our economy would definitely be out there, because the whole city would be like a city on a hill, as it were. And the word harmony, I never thought of that before, but Mr. Makel, pretty much so. So the encapsulating document really, or I should say paragraph, is right here on the checklist for Harmony at 1. This document is based on hundreds of hours. That's not an exaggeration, this is data. This document is based on hundreds of hours of dedicated work between the Harmony at 1 team and the Steering Committee for Pacificans for Sustainable Development, and dozens of suggestions and recommendations from the planning commissioners based on comments during study sessions, those are public meetings, feedback over the past few years, not just months. This has been a landmark collaboration, and this is used elsewhere in the documents. This has been a landmark collaboration to create a project that meets the passionate concerns of the members of the PSD, other activists, environmentalists, concerned citizens, as well as the owners of Harmony 1 project. We are extremely proud of this project, and goes on, I'm not going to read all that. We are setting standards that far exceed those of the city, county, state. It was meant to do that. We are not asking for variances. We are making the following commitments to ensure this flagship environmentally friendly development is in harmony with the earth and the community. So what are we looking at? We're looking at the intent of the whole project. So the terms that it's vague, I don't know where we can possibly go there with the word vague. This is just one paragraph. It repeats itself over and over and over again. The concern about delay, this is the owner, the developer. Why it didn't happen in 3 months, I don't know. I assume it was the economic downturn. That's not a delay put on by anybody else. That's a problem area that had to deal with those circumstances. The new owner, and I like both persons, they're very strong in the community, they have no problem with their likability, character, stuff. But still, it was purchased with these documents not up for variance. These are the documents. So the purchase was done with these documents, with this history of this community. So it is very difficult for me to reach a decision that there was vagueness and that anything else could equal what was documented here. Now, the state has requirements which are minimum requirements. Again, these documents weren't major or maximum. They were creating new, higher standards. So from those points of view, I find that you really can't mess with this document. When it says certification over and over and over again, and there's a definite difference, I do like the comparison between the Mercedes and the Cadillac, both very nice cars, but an essential difference. So I would say I cannot say that the intent was kept. The intent, I cannot go along with it.
Councilmember Neihardt.
Mayor Irvin, if I might just interrupt you, I apologize. I wanted to offer some clarification about the document we just handed up to the council, which is a copy of the resolution that reflects staff's recommendation. We discovered it was not part of the printed packet, and we want to make sure that you had that in front of you as you move down the path. You're very welcome.
There is one in the printed packet,
In the electronic packet.
in the electronic packet.
In the electronic, but as we were looking at our copies, we did not find it. We didn't want to assume perhaps that you had it or not. We wanted to make sure that you had it in front of you.
I'm not sure, what are you talking about?
The document that we just handed up, that you just shared copies of, and you should have a
Resolution.
copy in front of you.
Right here.
Councilmember DeGree?
Do I have one? Okay, thank you.
It is in the electronic copy.
Great. Well, again, we just wanted to be double sure that you had that in front of you. Apologize for the interruption.
Okay. Do I have any other comments?
I have a question.
Okay.
So I was here that night also. I've never actually gotten to vote on this project before, and sort of in my way of thinking, I'm not voting on it tonight. What I'm looking at is understanding something that is the application of what has come before. And I need to understand something, and I'm not sure if it's the city attorney or if it's planning staff or who's going to answer this. But this was absolutely, Sue, you're absolutely correct. This was a amazing come together. I think I said something like that when I spoke that night. It was, I mean, I know that Nancy Hall worked on it. I know that Ann Edminster, I know the people that were involved. But that was 2005 to 2007, and here's my question. Since that time, when we didn't have a building ordinance, we developed a building ordinance and a green building ordinance. And that, I mean, we had a building ordinance. We didn't have a green building ordinance. That green building ordinance said green points or LEED, correct? Then, am I correct in thinking that, because there's no sunset language in there, so I'm assuming, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to check publicly, that Cal Green came along and we set standards for the whole state, and we're a general law state. Is that correct? I mean, how did that all happen?
How did the ordinance cease to exist?
Yeah.
My understanding is that I have been told that it sunsetted, but I have not done the research to see if council formally rescinded that.
Is Javier
Does anybody know?
Javier would like to come out.
Okay.
If you go to the City of Pacifica webpage, on their green building, the last paragraph, it says, starting 2013, the City of Pacifica will exclusively use Cal Green. So therefore, by the use of exclusively, the ordinance was died.
Okay.
My understanding is that the ordinance was superseded by state law. So whether or
That's what
not
I
there was
thought.
a formal rescission by the council, I don't know, but the general understanding by most communities was that it had been superseded by state law.
That's my understanding as well. And I do know that our website says that very clearly. I also know that things like that change issues. To me, that's my biggest question, and it's twofold. Number one, where does the law fall, or legal guidance, if in fact there is or isn't a law on this? I heard a little bit from you. I would like to hear from you about that particular issue, because things change over the course of this many years. That's number one. And number two, I want to understand the application of a standard that's different, because interestingly enough, in our packet was also the Palmetto project that was under appeal. And I'm curious because there was nothing about LEED in that project. So are we holding someone to a standard that has changed? I'm just curious about the legal aspects of this.
Well, I think it's important to remember that when condition number 27 was imposed back in 2007, whether that condition complied with the law or not is really irrelevant, because at that time, that condition in its form back in 2007 is what was a condition of approval that was associated with that project. The applicant at that time agreed with that condition, never challenged it, so that condition became a requirement. I think what you're asking is, does a subsequent law change that condition? No, it does not. That condition still stands. I think the question for the council is whether or not that condition 27 is clear on its face, or, as the applicant has suggested, was it vague and needed clarification. The Planning Commission determined that it needed some clarification, and that was the action that they took. The council tonight could follow that action, or the council tonight could determine that the condition as it was written was not vague, it was very clear, its intent was clear. So no change to condition 27 is needed. It could determine that, in fact, it was somewhat vague, and so some clarification was needed, and the Planning Commission's interpretation was the correct interpretation. Or, 3, it could determine that condition 27 was vague, but that the interpretation that the Planning Commission associated with that vagueness was not correct, and you could apply your own interpretation.
So, Michelle, are we applying the interpretation of the LEED standards as they stood in 2007, or are we applying them today? Because that you would meet LEED certification.
In the first instance, you need to determine whether or not that condition, as it was written in 2007, is vague and ambiguous today, for whatever reason.
Okay.
But there's no law that will guide that determination. That is a determination that is solely within the determination of the council, based on your reasonable discretion.
You understand my question and my confusion. I mean, version 4 of LEED was brought up tonight, and my understanding is version 4 hasn't even been fully implemented because of some controversies about it. So I don't know where we are in the versions and which one we're adhering to.
So it sounds to me as if you believe that that condition 27, as it stands today, is unclear. And if you believe that, then you need to discuss with the rest of the council how that can be clarified.
Well, I'm just going to make a statement in general. I think we need to clarify this in our building codes in general. I think it's an issue that goes beyond this particular project, because this is not clear to me when I begin to look at. Cal Green wasn't the intention. You are correct, Sue. It wasn't the intention of the group that came together. I do clearly remember when we passed the ordinance, and it was the intention to push the limits of what we heard was coming. I am, as I got into this, puzzled that we rescinded that ordinance at some point in time, or it was superseded by state law, and we never addressed that we might want something more. And to me, that, not the conditions, but those circumstances we find ourselves in today, is the piece that makes it very difficult to say, you have to do this versus you have to not do this. Does that make sense to you?
Councilwoman Howard, I may be able to clarify this. It was the intent of the Planning Commission back in 2007 when we said build to lead, that the lead that you were building to wasn't static in time, that you built only to the lead as it existed in 2007. There was absolute global acknowledgement that lead was an evolving standard. And so you would be building to the lead standard at the time that you actually came in for the building. And if I may, I was on the Planning Commission when we passed the Green Building Ordinance, and it was not the intent of the Green Building Ordinance to render lead obsolete. That absolutely the Planning Commission or the City Council could go beyond that in certain special cases such as this one.
I totally concur with that. I agree because I was involved and because I was there and because I passed the Green Building Ordinance. What I'm saying is we've let that lapse. That becomes my problem and my quandary.
I don't know which one's first. Councilmember Keener? I want to say something.
Okay, I'm going to deviate from lead for just a minute or two and then come back to it. And the deviation has to do with the elevations, the berms, and the excavation that will lower the buildings. And if you'll look at sheet number A7 in your packet, that shows the elevations of the buildings, of the building that is going to be built on lot number 2, and the berm around it. And the berm is 245.5 feet. I got that from another page 3. So that's the little high point of the earth in front of the building, 245.5. And the existing grade, or what is called the existing grade, is 241 3/4, 241 and a half. So that's 4 feet. On the first page, I think, I think it's 243, looking at the paving in front of the house and in front of the entrance. And I'll stand corrected if Javier wants to correct me. At any rate, that's not enough of the berm to hide the house. The house is, the high point is 269.5, so that is 25 feet above the high point of the berm. And it will in no way hide the house from the south. Okay, that's all I've got to say on that. Regarding the cost, the builder or the developer, the applicant, says $25,000 to $30,000, and the world expert on lead says just under 1,000. Now, we've got two very disparate numbers there, and what are we to make of that? And finally, the vagueness or lack of vagueness of the condition of approval. Yeah. Constructed to attain all necessary points to achieve LEED certification. Boy, that to me says certificate. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember O'Neill?
I just have a question. As I was looking at this chart we have here of comparisons between LEED and Cal Green and then Greenpoint rated. So if we're to look at this, I'm assuming the Greenpoint rated is the one that they're striving to take, they want to replace with the LEED, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, in looking at it, there's a lot of points where there is Cal Green in this construction, and there's no reference at all in LEED towards the construction. So in some aspects, it almost looks like Cal Green is tougher than LEED. Am I correct in that, or?
No.
No?
Cal Green is the baseline. It's the mandatory minimum. You have to achieve Cal Green in order to achieve any certification.
Okay. And so, but when there's no reference for, in the LEED column, it just says see above, or it actually says no LEED reference, then basically the default would be the Greenpoint rated, correct? That'd have to be at least that?
Well, it depends on, this is a comparison of the three
right
measures as put out by Stop Waste. So, for example, Cal Green required residential. There's no LEED reference in that it is a requirement. It's just straight across the board a requirement by the state.
Okay.
So you're not going to achieve a LEED category for that per se.
Okay.
Okay. And yes, Build a Green does give you some points for achieving Cal Green. At least they did. That's just what they did as a local green ordinance or a local green certification.
Greenpoint, does that require the investigations and monitoring and inspections?
To be certified,
like
yes, absolutely.
So if they were to use Greenpoint, it would have to be certified, and if they use LEED, it would have to be certified also, correct?
Yes, the true measure of any green verification is actual certification.
Okay. Javier, question. As most of Pacifica knows, you're well underway in construction up there. Who has been doing the inspections? Because right now, if the standard is for LEED, who has been doing the inspections for all the work that's been done now? Because some of these are the sidewalks and, removal of debris and everything else. Have you been doing what you've done so far to LEED, or have you been doing it to Cal Green?
No, the LEED...
No to what? Okay.
The LEED imposition is for the buildings. The LEED certification is for the buildings. We haven't seen on the conditions of approval any area that says that the entire subdivision needs to be LEED certified. So currently, all the work that is being done is following the approved improvement plans, and there has been inspections done by the city and by the city's consultant, CSG. So there has been continuous inspection for every aspect of the project.
I can't find it right here because this is like, 5,000 pages. But in looking at it, there's requirements for permeable surfaces. There's also requirements that a percentage has to be permeable, including the vegetation. There has to be certification and whatever for diversion channels where you dump the debris and stuff like that. So by what you're saying is that hasn't been monitored at all?
When the tentative map was approved, all the conditions of approval were issued. Between the tentative map and the actual construction drawings, there was a long process where all the different departments and all the different agencies verified the compliance of the improvement plans that we're building with the conditions of approval.
Okay.
So We have permanent biologists on site. We have geotechnical engineers. So all the required inspections and imposed by the conditions of approval are done. The only thing that to my understanding, is not a requirement, is that the project in its entirety, that the subdivision needs to be LEED certified. I've never seen that requirement.
Okay, so just the houses are
The
LEED
homes.
certified. Tina, is that typical, I'm sorry, is that typical? I know you're new here, but is that typical, and are there Cal Green standards or LEED standards for the total subdivision, talking about planted area, you know, roadways, cement, sidewalks, all that?
Yes.
But to your knowledge, that, none of that was included in the, as a condition of approval?
So the condition of approval 27 that we've been discussing speaks to buildings specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my review of the approved improvement plans, there was no additional LEED certification required.
So like all the work that's been done up there now has not been done to, other than the plan and building standards, safety code and fire and all that?
It meets the code, of course. It complies with the approval in terms of how it's being built, but it's not LEED certified.
Or Cal Green certified? Is there Cal Green standards for roadways? And there are?
There's no certification for Cal Green, but the inspection process would verify that the Cal Green measures have been met.
Meaning, can you kind of clarify that for a guy that doesn't know what you're talking about?
Pardon me?
Can you clarify that for a guy who doesn't know what you're talking about or understand?
So when a building inspector or an inspector goes out on site, they verify the measures that are listed for Cal Green per se. So if there's a erosion control, those measures need to be verified for Cal Green. So anything that's listed in Cal Green. Now, there may be some other measures that are in LEED that are prerequisite that that person that may be looking for the Cal Green measures doesn't necessarily review.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I just have a question. I'm pretty convinced that the intent of, and I'm trying to focus on the intent that the planning commissioners were considering when they voted 5-0 in favor of this language that was used. And that was that we were not attaining LEED gold standard certification, but we were in fact achieving it. Can we achieve LEED gold standard using, because I believe this is really, I want to support, stand by what the planning commissioners wanted. And so I want to make sure they are getting what they wanted, and then I'm okay. Can they achieve LEED gold standards utilizing a green point system? I want to make sure that they are attaining but not qualifying for it. That's what I heard the planning commissioners were okay with. And one of the planning commissioners is here tonight, and he was on the planning commission in 2007, so I think it's a very valid representative here. So.
It's a difficult question to answer. And the reason that I say that is, as Ann well pointed out, unless I have a body that is reviewing what I say meets the criteria, I can say anything all day long that meets the criteria, but I need somebody to review what I've done. On every project that I do as a Greenpoint rater, I am audited. And that audit is a verification of how did I achieve, or how did the project achieve those measures in order to be certified. We are audited. And every project gets audited without fail. Every project is audited. And so if you're going to allow self-certification, essentially is what you're asking, because in order to meet a standard that is not a certification, they're saying, yes, we meet that intent, but we're not being certified. Who's auditing that? That's the question. Who will audit the person that says it's qualified.
Honestly, I'd love some help out of this one. I mean, I'd really like to feel 100% that we are agreeing to the conditions of approval that number 27. And, you know, is there some language, is there something we can guarantee is, you know, how do we go about doing this? Javier, if you could.
Yes. I think the intent of LEED and the intent of the Green Point system is very similar. We can get to the very top of that ladder through two different routes. LEED has certain procedures, certain testing, certain requirements, and so does Green Point. The bottom line is that we are exceeding the requirements of Title 24 currently. And we are by far exceeding the gold LEED standards of 2007. So as I mentioned before, our goal is to create that quality project. How do we get there? We're going to have Green Point rated certification. So it's not that the work is being done randomly without any review. The work is being checked. The work is being proposed by a qualified designer, reviewed by a qualified professional. It's just a different route. And the reason that we chose that route is because it's less bureaucratic and less expensive, but not because we want to diminish anything. I completely agree with what Sue was mentioning about the intent of the project. Absolutely. The intent of the project remains. We do not want to change the intent of the project. We want this project to be the best thing that happened to Pacifica, because that will be the best thing that will happen for our developer. We are just changing that specific requirement, not to minimize, but to expedite. And I'll tell you something, LEED doesn't guarantee you the best building in there. There are certain things that LEED is missing. There are certain things that Green Point has that are better than LEED, and there are certain things that LEED has that are better than Green Point. So can we enter into an argument of which one is better? I did a lot of research into both, and I can find pages of arguments that Green Point is better and pages of argument that LEED is better. And that's probably what led also to the creation of the green building standards. So we are going above and beyond the green building standards, and we are using the Green Point certification to prove that we have achieved that level.
And I know, Javier, during the Planning Commission meeting that you had talked about, initially you had mentioned at one time 150 points versus 100 points. I don't know what that entails, and there was a discussion in the planning commissioners had that said, you know, we shouldn't ask more of them than what was asked at the time. So
correct. On the Green Point rating system, you achieve points by the different things that you're doing to the building.
Right.
In our design, we had incorporated enough elements of the design that gave us about 152 points, which should be equivalent to almost a platinum LEED.
Right.
So the Planning Commission reviewed that, and it said, well, if we had required gold LEED certification, well, we shouldn't be requiring the equivalent to a platinum gold certification. And now, how the equivalency is made? By the quality of the home, by the amount of improvements, by how much percentage you are exceeding that Title 24. So our building is proposed to be monitored. The quality is not coming down, and LEED for sure is not necessarily going to guarantee you the best. LEED, Green Point, different tests, different areas. They're experts that have different opinions, and the only thing that is for sure a law is 2014 California Building Code. We're exceeding that voluntarily and to comply with the conditions of approval. So we are with you, Sue. We are with you, council members. We want the best for the project. We just want to avoid the additional bureaucracy.
Councilmember Nyhart?
I guess I'm back on this question. You said that you get audited, you being the Greenpoint person. And so, is there a certification that we get then that it meets? I mean, I'm not as familiar as the levels of gold up to platinum and that sort of thing that we kind of worked with when we didn't have alternatives in this city. So could you answer that? Like if you were the expert for this project?
If I were the expert for this project, but I don't know where you went from.
Would you be audited, and is
Yes.
there a certification in that audit?
Yes, once the audit is complete and you have clarified to the organization that is auditing you.
And
they-
is 100 points equivalent to gold? Because that's a moving target.
It is a moving target. In 100 points, you have different areas to choose your points from. Understand, as
You have
Ann
different
pointed out,
areas to
points are not the
choose,
point.
yeah.
You're not here for the number of points. It's what did you do to achieve sustainability? What level of sustainability did you achieve? But as far as a certification goes, upon that audit completion, you will receive a certificate. What level of points you achieved or how quote-unquote green your building is up to the developer or builder as to what they have received. But there are, as Ann pointed out, there's 350 points to choose from, plus 350 plus, whereas, and there are very few prerequisites in Build It Green as compared to LEED. So the points that you achieve, can I call it comparative? No, I can't. I can't say it's comparative. Do I think it's comparative? I do believe that it is. But that's personal opinion.
Why not use LEED point system? I'm just curious, if we want to achieve LEED, I would even be okay not getting the certification.
Commission said.
That's what I thought.
It's LEED. It's
exactly
LEED.
what I thought.
It's the points
Okay.
necessary to achieve, to achieve the gold standard and at least 100 points on the green point rating system.
That's, okay, it feels
It's
like
not,
that's...
it's not that that they took LEED out
Correct.
completely. They did not do that.
Okay.
It's
So
different. It's in
I
the
still had a
resolution.
follow-up question. Sorry. That's
And I
okay.
know
I wasn't
Mayor
done.
Pro Tem Degree wants to speak too.
So this is, the reason we're doing this, and the reason I'm having difficulty with this, is the changes in the rules as we go along. And we've had a lot of changes. And we can argue that our intention, certainly the intention in the room last night was it was just yesterday, in 2007, was absolutely the best possible sustainable project in terms of energy and in every other way that it could be. So we totally concur with that. These discussions about cost and those sort of things, I'm sorry to say this, it doesn't really play into that decision. We're talking about how clear were the conditions of approval and how clear they are in today's language. And, trying to meet that intent, I hate to say it, but the English language is not all that clear. We can talk about the berm issue as an example. Every home will be bermed to minimize visual impact. My minimize and somebody else's minimize might be entirely different. It's not and you can say, I absolutely know, but unfortunately, words in the English language are vague. I would like to suggest that whatever happens here, that we go back to having our green building ordinance reinstated and clarified so we don't sit here and have to go through this again. That would be one recommendation out of this. Because then I could go back and say, very clearly Greenpoint or whatever it is we decide, because Cal Green is a floor. Cal Green came along later, and our own ordinance went further than that. So I was pretty baffled when it kind of sunsetted or whatever it did, and we stopped using it, and that would have clarified this a lot more tonight. So that's one thing I'd like to see come out of this, is that we go back to clarifying our own ordinance. Okay.
Mayor Pro Tem Degree.
I don't really understand how something in 2013, unless it was supposed to be retroactive, really is a point now, other than the one you just said, for future things. The 2007 was creating the standard. The 2013 was a different standard, which my understanding was actually a minimum standard, not a high standard. So unless I'm supposed to be told that 2013 was supposed to be retroactive, am I hearing that? Because I'm not comprehending that. No? Okay. So I think that's important. So that 13 is kind of mute. Question, did the Planning Commission have the same documents that we did, all the 1,000 pages of information and nitty-gritty of what happened in 2007?
Yes.
Okay. So then, going back to the reason why it went before the Planning Commission in 2015 was because the new applicant who bought the package is claiming that the terminology was vague. That's why the Planning Commission 2015 had their discussions. Am I correct?
So each lot is going to require a specific plan that's part of the plan development approval process.
True.
And so this was the first specific plan that came through.
But his reference to vague was the total project that was voted on in 2007, correct?
Yes, it was in reference to a 2007 condition. Because
Okay.
the purpose of the specific plan is to not only review the individual lots and the homes that are going on the individual lots, but also confirm that it's consistent with the 2007
Correct.
conditions.
So
So that's why that came into the
Right, so
conversation.
staying on that straight line, where was I going with this? So I'm saying that the vagueness really wasn't all that vague, as far as I can see. The other thing that I read here, this is the one that says Stop Waste. I guess that's an organization, so it's dated February 2014, and it has it's titled Detailed Comparison of Residential Green Building Rating Systems and Cal Green Code 2014. However, when you read the small print, this is a detailed comparison of the new Greenpoint rated new home single-family and multifamily version and the new 2013 Cal Green Code and Lead for Homes version 4. The measures and credits compared here are not necessarily equivalent. Please refer to the draft GPR version for more specific information. And it goes on to say, this document has been reviewed by this organization called Stop Waste, Department of the Environment, Build It Green, the U.S. Green Building Council, the U.S. GBC California. Although every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, be advised that information may change and that some comparisons are based on professional judgment by the reviewers. And the last sentence is, use it at your own risk. So going back to points that equal lead, in the discussions I've heard this evening, what I came away with is that points are not the equivalent of a lead. Is there any clarity for sure in one way or another on that?
Well, both systems use a point system.
Right.
So I think what Mr. Hancock was saying is that they can't be necessarily compared to each other. A different
Right,
point
that's
system.
kind of where I'm going.
And I know, Rich, go ahead.
And just to be clear, what we discussed at the Planning Commission meeting was that someone would, our approval of this was conditioned on the assumption, or actually on the statements on the record, that someone would be doing an audit, hired by the city, a plan checker with a LEED certification, actually doing the audit. And our decision was premised on the ability to obtain gold LEED standard without certification.
That's right.
If that's possible. And that's what we assumed could happen. And so in the record, there was discussion from the planning department that they were going to hire someone to actually, I guess, be the LEED auditor who would take the developer all the way up to the point of verifying that they met this LEED standard, but not actually require the piece of paper from New York, apparently, that would...
My interpretation.
So what would be the cost and time involved for that?
I just wanted to clarify that that is correct, and to also state that condition number 24 states that the city will do this and that the applicant will pay for it. And so, as I had mentioned earlier in the meeting, I haven't written that scope of work or RFP yet, so I don't have that cost. But this is a specialty that the city will be consulting to
So
provide,
condition
and the applicant will
24,
pay
though,
for it.
was in 2007, correct?
Why don't you read it?
A certified green building professional at the developer's expense shall review the green building elements proposed by the applicants for compliance with green building practices identified in conditions 22 and 23 above.
So when you go back to 22 and 23, do they refer to the LEED certification?
Actually, the lead is 27.
Well, I'll still say it's like trading vague for vague, if you want to believe that the first one was vague. I mean, all the words and documents were not vague, and the comparison between, I know it's colloquial, but it really sits, the Mercedes and the Cadillac. Actually, at the time, all the documents say, and up to the time the 2015 Planning Commission, that they were going for a Tesla. So I really still have a kind of a hard time, and probably have a few more questions, but I see two more lights there.
Councilmember O'Neill.
You've kind of alluded to it a little bit, but okay, looking at the verbiage that is just handed to us as for the resolution. The home on Lot 2 shall be constructed to LEED gold standards and achieve at least 100 points on the green rating system. Now, you've said before that they're not quid pro quo, they're not equal. But is it my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, because the hour's getting late, is, okay, the LEED there's a requirement in a lot of different places, and you have to meet each requirement. The 100 points in the green rating system is if you want to meet them all in the building walls and forget everything else. I'm wrong?
Currently, there are 5 categories that you must achieve points in Build a Green.
Okay.
So there are minimum levels in each category, okay, that would achieve a minimum number of points, much like LEED has their prerequisites. But the points themselves may or may not be interchangeable between the two different rating systems.
Okay. Okay, so by 100 points in the green point rating system, you could very easily, it wouldn't be all that hard to go higher. What's like a perfect score in the green rating system?
I'm sure there's higher than mine, but I've done one that's 200 points, and I would assume Ann has done something larger than that or higher than that. But right now, and that was under an old system. So right now, as the energy code increases its efficiency, points that used to be relatively simple through the energy component are now much more difficult, because every 3 years our energy code ratchets the efficiencies down. So it's now more difficult to achieve that energy efficiency component. Currently, through Build a Green, you receive 25 points for 10% over the state minimum. Okay, 25 points Now you achieve 75 points in the 4 other categories. May not be, it depends on the site, it depends on the construction materials, the methods that they choose, may or may not be difficult. You have to go through the plan to actually see how many points you can achieve. Is 100 points doable? Yes, it's doable.
So, Rich, I have a question for you. Is the word "and," okay? Shall be constructed to LEED Gold standards, period. And then, or, there's and or, and you have and, which is achieve at least 100 points in the Greenpoint rating system. So that sounds like you've almost put an additional requirement on there by the word and instead of and/or. Can you kind of articulate that?
Yeah, no, that was the intent. It wasn't an and or, it was
And.
you'll meet. I mean, that's very specific, because and or language is pretty common with us in the Planning Commission and in the planning realm, and meant and.
Yeah. Okay, so it's almost like it's a dual thing then at that point.
That's correct.
If I could just clarify that legal interpretation of the Planning Commission's new condition 27, there is an obligation that this project meet a LEED Gold standard. That is going to be monitored, that has to be certified, however our inspectors will certify that. They have to achieve that. They also have to achieve at least 100 points on the Greenpoint rating system. I think what you've heard is that if it is probably easier to achieve 100 points on the Greenpoint rating system, but that's an additional requirement. But that certainly they have the obligation to meet a LEED Gold standard on all buildings. What they do not have the obligation to do is to get it certified, to get a LEED Gold standard certified. That is really the distinction between what I think you hear certain statements by council members tonight when they point out that certification was required back in 2007.
A question.
Mayor Pro Tem Degree, and then Councilmember Keener.
I had a question. So that sounds like everything is equivalent, but I'm still thinking that the points, being a teacher, some teachers give heavy weight to this and other teachers give heavy weight to that. So your point system is different and still, you know, is acceptable. So I'm trying to figure out that if you have an equivalent number of points, do you really have an equivalent number? Do you have the Mercedes or do you still have the Cadillac?
Well, they have to achieve both.
Do you have to have a Mercedes Cadillac?
It's not and or, it's both.
And so I'm not going to, I'm going to let Councilmember.
Okay. So regarding the LEED inspections that you will write an RFP for and hire somebody to do, and the developer will pay for, will that inspector just inspect the plans, or will he or she actually get out to the building site and inspect the building?
Both.
Both, okay. And will his or her work be audited as Greenpoint work would be if you were going to get a Greenpoint certificate?
It wouldn't be audited unless you file for a certification.
Okay.
Could you say that again, please?
It would not be audited unless that person files for the certificate. The only reason that they would not, that USGBC would not even be aware of the project unless it's filed with them, and then once it's filed, then the audit process can begin. Or the same would hold true for Build It Green.
So in other words, the audit is basically equivalent to getting a certificate for LEED or green points.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And that's set in motion at this point, right?
Councilmember O'Neill.
You kind of answered my question, but basically it's kind of like you're going to college, you've gone to all the classes, you finish, you go out and get a job, but you don't apply for the diploma, right? Is that basically what we're asking them to do? Okay.
Any other comments?
I think we've commented out.
Well, do I,
So, yeah, I have a comment, so if I may. Picking up on that, so I still get lost in what's the intent. So based on what you just said, and going back to the intent of 2007, the intent would have been that you had that diploma, and then you could certainly market it. And now we're saying that you're just getting a GED, or not even, you're getting all the equivalent, but you just don't go to the point of getting your diploma. So that goes back to the intent. The intent was this was going to be a high standard to be modeled and showcased. Just a comment. That's all.
okay. Yeah, I do find it interesting. I mean, the night of the Planning Commission meeting, we had a lot of positive comments made about the project. Everybody seemed really excited about it. It was a really positive thing. There was nobody speaking against the project, I don't think. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think anybody spoke.
In 2007 or in 2015?
The other, April.
Oh, yeah, well,
2015.
except when we got to this point.
Right. So it just kind of interesting, a 5-0 vote, and I'm really focusing on the intent of the planning commissioners. I don't think and the information that they gave was what they thought they were voting on. I think that's important too, because I think that's the most important thing. I'm not trying to overturn a decision that was made by the Planning Commission. I just want to advocate that they made the decision they thought they made, and that is that they will be constructed to LEED Gold standard and achieve at least 100 points on the Green Point rating system. So I'm not entirely sure how they're going to be rated as LEED Gold standard, but I am assuming that is doable. And certification was a secondary concern over actually doing a LEED Gold standard. That was the most important thing to the planning commissioners. I mean, Council Member Keener, and then Mike.
Yeah. So let me just say where I am on this. I would modify what the Planning Commission decided in the supplemental condition to read, "The home on Lot 2 shall be constructed to receive LEED Gold certification and achieve at least 100 points on the Green Point rating system." And that's where I stand.
Okay.
Just to make things easy to figure out what we're going to do.
Where we stand.
Can you repeat that? You're talking about the resolution in front of us here, right?
I am talking about what no, I'm not. I'm talking about what the Planning Commission passed, and what they said was, and I'm modifying what they said by a couple of words. Okay, so if you can find packet page number 197, although actually it's on the resolution also.
Right.
Okay. And what I say is the home on Lot 2 shall be constructed to receive LEED Gold certification and achieve 100 points, at least 100 points on the Green Point rating
That's
system.
basically overturning their decision, because the variance, what they were asking for that night was not to have to do certification.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Councilmember O'Neill.
Okay, I was just going to make a resolution, but now he's made an amendment. I just want to be sure I read it here. the home on Lot 2 shall be constructed to receive LEED Gold certification or replacing standard? Because you have standard certification,
Replacing
standard.
standard.
So
Replacing.
standard would be replaced with certification.
Right.
So you know, that was the whole intent of the reason they came to the planning commission was so they didn't have to do certification.
Right, but the key word he's saying here is shall be constructed to receive LEED Gold certification, but they do not have, but are you saying they have to go apply for certification and get it? Or just go to all the classes and not apply for the diploma?
No, I'm saying they've got to get the diploma. That's certification.
So you're saying they have to get the diploma?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't be more clear.
Okay, I just want to be sure.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
understood
fine.
what you're saying, so
That's
we're
fine.
not back here again. Okay, so,
2 Degree seconds that, so.
Second, yeah.
well, he didn't make a motion, did he? Oh, you just seconded the
I'll
opinion.
make that a motion if you want to. What's the sense of the council?
Well, make it. Let's vote and get onward.
Okay, I'll make it.
Go
I
ahead.
just,
Are you going to, are you?
well, we haven't, have we made the motion or not?
We haven't.
Okay.
Apparently not.
But
Because I don't think it's as clear as everybody's trying to make it to be. I wish we had clear language. I wish we hadn't added the "and shall obtain a gold standard whenever possible." I wish that we hadn't let our own ordinance go by the wayside. I just think all of those things would have strengthened this and made it easier and cleaner, both for us to make a decision and for the developer to follow. And as a result, I disagree with that. I think that we have other options today. They've been presented to us. I think it's confusing. I think we definitely need to revisit this issue in the future as a separate ordinance, but I can't agree that that's exactly what it says.
Right, yeah.
So you're not in
Mayor
agreement
Irvin?
with what I said?
Yeah, with
Okay.
the have to obtain the certification, I absolutely agree with the intent. I agree with the, but I don't see it there. And I don't see it because we've muddied the waters with other things.
So if I might, again, interject, looking at the wording caused me to look back at condition number 27. And so this is more of a question perhaps for the planning commissioner sitting across the table, or across the floor from me. But it occurred to me that if this was designed to say, get the certification, that it probably would say, as proposed by the applicant, all the new buildings shall be designed and constructed to attain LEED certification. And so those words in between would probably have been left out. And so in terms of intent, it does seem like they were not intending to have to get the certification.
And unfortunately,
So,
that's the way
anyway.
I read it also.
And I'm sure that you can interpret this different ways, but I would just sort of pose that as a question perhaps to help the discussion move along.
The intent, speaking as the chair of the Planning Commission, the intent that the commissioners thought this year was that the language could be harmonized with the requirement that the city hire someone to conduct the process of getting a LEED standard, that would be possible, that the certification was more of a paperwork exercise. That was the intent in 2015. In 2007, I think the intent of the sitting commission was that they would get the certification.
Right.
Well, thanks
And-
for not helping.
I just want to say something really quick, and, Lori, I did read it, and I even wrote it down, because I did question whether they cared so much about the certification, or they strictly wanted those gold standards, and so, because it did say, the ability to, what you said, I wrote it down somewhere, but anyway, so I understand what you're pointing to, and it was a consideration of mine while I was going through all these documents. Was it any big deal? And the fact that we had a sitting planning commissioner from 2007 being able to agree with those terms made me feel very comfortable with the decision that was made that night. And for me, I am comfortable with that decision that night as long as it can be verified that they're getting what they want.
Yeah.
That they're getting LEED Gold Standard, the 100 points green, but it will meet green standard, because I feel like it's strong, it's very important to, yes.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what I said at the beginning of the meeting, was that I feel as if the Planning Commission attempted to put these standards in place with regard to McDonald's and Walgreens, and we feel that we never got any verification that those projects, they may have been designed to LEED standard. We just don't know. We were never provided any verification that it actually, in fact, happened. And I think the intent of the Planning Commission in both councils was that, in 2017 and 2015, was that we can't let that, if we're going to design to LEED Gold Standard, it has to be verified. Someone has to actually verify that that happened. Can that happen absent a certification or not? I guess that's the question for a LEED expert, but that was the intent, that actually happened.
Councilmember Neihardt?
Just to Mr. Chavarria, I just want to say that I personally would like to see this exceed gold and exceed where we were. We talked at various points about a much higher standard, and I'd like to see that happen. I think the point in question is the certificate versus the audit and the oversight, and I think Mr. Campbell just made a very, very good point. What I heard from you was, in Green Points, there's an audit, and we have built into the conditions of approval oversight from the city paid for by the developer. And that audit then comes with that? It comes with the Green Points, or? Yes. You're nodding affirmatively. I want it on the record.
Yes. If you
All right.
want an audit, you are going to receive a certificate.
Then, oh, now wait, you just changed that.
Nobody audits anything audits the Greenpoint Raider unless you're going to receive a certificate. You do not get audited by Build It Green unless you receive a certificate, unless you apply for a certificate. There is no audit agency, there's no oversight of the Greenpoint Raider.
So you're using Greenpoint rating, Javier. So are you willing to get that certificate
Absolutely.
and be audited?
Yes, and beyond.
And the same would be true of
Can't do
LEED,
that?
right?
No, I think it's important to note that certainly with regard to the minimum of 100 points of Green Point certification, that will be audited.
Okay.
That will happen. With regard to the LEED Gold Standard, unless the amendment by Councilmember Keener is approved, then the only certification that is going to happen for that, not something from a state, it will be a third party, for lack of a better word, certification from city inspectors, as opposed to state. So that is the difference. And if I could also add here, if there's a way to get sort of a straw vote of whether or not the Councilmember Keener's amendment is going to go forward, because I have other changes to the resolution that need to be made in the event that amendment moves forward.
Right, and
So before you would vote on that, I would need to make suggested changes to the resolution.
I think we're still trying to get some clarity over how do we prove that we have LEED gold standards without that audit? What do we have?
The only guarantee or third-party review of that would be our third-party hired lead expert, exactly. But there would not be any official certification.
Or audit.
Or audit.
Right.
Only, right, only for the green building standards.
But correct me if I'm wrong, many of these things overlap.
They do.
So they'll be audited on the green points?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Council, Mayor Pro Tem Degree?
I had a question that I forgot to ask before. What's with the New York issue? There's nobody else anywhere else nearby that can do this?
There is.
Okay. Thank you. So may I ask a question? So you have some suggestions that would be strengthening Mr. Keener's or totally
Yes,
different
that
than
we
Mr.
would need
Keener's?
to amend in the resolution to make clear that you are modifying the condition as created by the Planning Commission in April 2015.
So is there some reason why you couldn't suggest those before we vote?
Yes.
You can.
Yes. No, I just, but.
Let's see.
Trying to save time.
She's trying
He wants to see if he's even going to pass.
I know,
If
but
she
why?
sees it's going to pass, then we would do all the amendments and
It's up to
changes.
you. I'm just
Okay, so
telling
let
you
me
that
ask it more
before-
simply, straightforward. Is there some reason why he has to make the motion before you make suggestions? Is that a
Cannot
technicality?
vote before I make
Right.
suggestions.
Right, I understand that.
That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Because the resolution before you needs other modifications to match what Councilmember Keener
got
has
it.
proposed.
You wanted some indication?
Yes.
At this point in time, I'm in agreement with the Planning Commission.
But that's not where we are.
Well, that's what we're taking a straw vote. We're trying to figure out
Yeah.
where everybody is. Mike, you had a light on.
You can shut it off.
So let me ask again, you don't need to hear from Councilman Keener, you just want to know which way we're voting?
No, I just, before you vote on that motion that Councilmember Keener made and you seconded, I need to make different revisions to the resolution.
So your only holdup right now is that he hasn't really made the motion, I did second it nonetheless?
No, he did make the motion, and you
Did?
seconded it.
Oh.
No.
No.
I don't think
Oh,
he
you
did.
did not?
No.
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 So are you going to make the motion?
I'm sorry.
So if we vote on his motion as it is now, it's not legal. She needs to
right.
make it legal
So you're either
by
gonna
having
make it
other
or
things.
not.
She's trying to save his 10 or 15 minutes
Are you going to make it the
to
motion?
make an
Can we
addition.
just find out, do you want to do
Let's just do a straw poll.
I'm with the Planning Commission.
So you're making a motion to go with
No,
the
I'm
plan.
giving her a sense of the city council.
I think the three of us
Mary Ann
have
and-
said we basically feel that the Planning Commission has made a very strong effort towards meeting gold standard, whatever. I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'm just saying that so far we're agreeing with the Planning Commission vote.
So then, being we have a sense of the council, can I make a resolution or motion now?
Motion.
For the one we have before us, printed as is with no changes. And now can I just read the
Yes.
very last paragraph rather than the whole thing? Now
The title-
therefore,
Just the title of the resolution.
oh. I make a motion to approve a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pacifica approving specific plan SP 151-15 for the construction of a single-family residence on Lot 2, part of the Harmony at 1 development at Fassler Avenue and Roberts Road, subject to conditions.
And I'll second that with just a couple of little caveats. I want to hear about this as it goes forward, and I want clarification of this in our own ordinance, because I don't want to have to go through this again.
And just understanding how we're going to ensure that we're meeting LEED gold
Yeah.
standards.
Yeah.
So I think there was a second, so we do a vote?
Please vote. And that passes 3-2.
I know what I want to do.
Okay. Then I'm going to have a recess,
Arm wrestling.
5 minutes.
I don't mean from you.
Now we still have to meet. I do. It's summer, so it's a little fluid.
It's what?
It's summer, so it's a little fluid, the summer camps, but next,
Oh, hold on.
You came up?
Come, Van, come.
Now, at council communications, the purpose of council communications is for council members to inform each other of meetings and events that they've that have taken place and have significant meaning. So probably try to make it quick tonight, but who would like to start?
I'll start.
Councilmember Keener.
We tried to make it quick last time. The day after the 4th of July, I participated in the Lindemar Beach cleanup, which was organized by the Pacifica Beach Coalition. There were lots of scouts out there and everybody else, and Mike and I were talking earlier about, were the people that were supposed to benefit from the fireworks sales actually cleaning up, and it appeared, from my limited vantage point, that they were. On June 29th, I attended a congestion management and environmental quality meeting, and Mike was there also. Had a presentation on projects for the MTC's Plan Bay Area 2040, and basically there was a lot of sort of resistance to it, in the sense that people felt like they were there to make a decision, but the decision had already been made for them. But the projects were due July 3rd, and most of the projects are highway projects, and most of them are continuations of existing projects. And I just want to highlight the Calera Parkway project is included at a total cost of $53 million. On June 25th, I attended the Community Choice Energy meeting as a spectator. Kirsten Schwind represented the Pacifica Climate Action Committee, and the Community Choice Energy Commission or committee or whatever it is chose the name for the future energy consortium, I suppose you'd call it. It's Peninsula Clean Energy. And they had a great presentation on the details of how energy is moved around and so on, and they're continuing to make progress toward the technical report that they have to have, which is basically the demands and so on for electricity in the county. And on June 22nd and 23rd, I attended the Coastal Futures Conference here in Pacifica at the Lighthouse Best Western Hotel. This is basically a statewide conference about sea level rise and how it affects beaches and bluffs and how we might adapt. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilmember Neihardt?
I just wanted to bring up a couple of things in the interest of time. One is that I've mentioned to you all that there is some controversy about how sea level rise goes forward in the county, what the organization, what the umbrella is that is going to entail this. Many of you have probably read by now the grand jury report, and we're in the process of responding to it. I just wanted to let you know that CCAG's responding to it as well. So I think we have it agendized at a later point, but I would really encourage you to look at it and consider some of the aspects of how that might be organized and who might be best to sort of manage that. So that's one thing. I've been involved in several meetings about that at the CCAG level, at the City and County Association of Governments. The other issue I wanted to bring to you is to let you know, and I didn't get a chance to forward it to the city manager, but I'm sure she'll share it with all of you. It's a response from Julie Pierce, who's the president of the Association for Bay Area Governments, and it's to the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. Part of the reason you may have felt the way you do sometimes at that is because there's a lot going on between the Association of Bay Area Governments and MTC, who are really the funders of what happens in terms of regional planning. And right now, we have had those two sort of split so that there was oversight by both. And MTC in their budget has moved to adopt only a 6-month budget for ABAG, the Association of Bay Area Governments, and to consider the move of that whole planning division back under MTC. So less people involved, less representation. You can see the whole idea of that response. So I wanted to share with you the president's response to that. It's just so you're not shocked, it's a 30-page response.
Okay.
She had a couple of things to say.
I'll read it tomorrow.
Okay, I won't tell you all the gory details, but there's a number of issues sort of going on about how to handle that. I have the feeling that the first one, I'm guessing, but MTC is bearing the brunt of all the lawsuits around the first One Bay Area planning. And so I'm thinking they're thinking they might want to own that, but I don't know. It does present food for thought about how we do regional planning in the Bay Area, so I wanted you guys to be aware of it. And what can I say? I am glad, I hope that...
Can I just ask a question?
Sure.
Is this phasing out ABAG then, under
Oh, ABAG
MTC?
does many, many more things.
Okay,
But
okay.
the overlap between ABAG and MTC is all around the planning piece.
Okay.
The true overlap, because they've basically held the planning piece for all the transportation elements. And that would put planning and transportation all in one organization with only 2 representatives from your county, as opposed to all the other people that have input. So it's a different thing, a different beast. So lots to go forward with. Okay.
Councilmember O'Neill?
Just a couple of things. I was there with John there at the congestion management. Also had the pleasure, Karen and Sue were there. It was there also at Reverend Nibby's July 4th thing, and he has great hot links and hot dogs afterwards, which is always good. And then I also went to a meeting with that the new hoped for purchasers of Seton Hospital. They didn't want us to release their name, okay? So, because it's going to become in public, but they think they're the lead horse in the race to buy it, and it sounds like they're going to have a very good program. They're coming in with a lot more capital. They're willing to have community hearings and community to find out what needs to be done so that they can maybe look at cutting some of the programs, but instead of having a program nobody's using, have a program that geriatric medicine, maybe one, mental handicaps and stuff like that would also be covered in there. So it sounds like they're it sounds very good, and hopefully from what they told us there, hopefully it will be they will be the winning horse, and we'll see what happens. They may be coming back to do a presentation here at council to get support for the Attorney General level, and also so that they can keep getting Measure A funds for the retrofit, which they say is going to be about $40 to $50 million for the Seton Hospital retrofit.
Mayor Pro Tem Degree.
My notes got lost in 1,000 pages somewhere, but I was very pleased that Mayor Irvin and her dad was at the United States Navy Reserve's 100th centennial over by the Hornet. I forget the name of the ship we were on, but anyway. It was really great to be back in the Navy. It was rather shocking, though, for a 100-year anniversary, so I was very pleased that City of Pacifica was represented, as well as the City of Alameda, where they are, but that was something. Attended a Bay Area planning meeting for aging and disabled. There will be a survey coming out to all cities and all agencies that have seniors and disabled. The county wants to make sure that the seniors and the disabled are, this one's more specifically for physically disabled and seniors, that they're being cared for and their needs are being met. Want to make sure that the public realizes that the Economic Development Committee is coming along really well. We're meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock at the police station, and the Open Space Committee and Parkland Committee is also meeting on Wednesdays, so these are two good things to attend. I've been attending a lot of housing meetings, various types of housing meetings in the county. Jackie Spear is going to be at the Chit Chat on the Pier between 9 and 9:45 on Saturday. And bring your camera, the whales are really great. And she is also going to be introducing the new GGNRA superintendent at Nick's in the back back banquet room, I should say. And that's going to be, oh lordy, I just forgot. 10 to 11, yes, 10 to 11.
Nick's, did you say that?
Yes, at Nick's. And I guess her name is Christine Lennertz. So.
Okay, I accompanied many of my fellow council members to the events that they just described, and it was a very productive time, but they've already stated those things, so I'm not going to repeat them. Some things going forward were, one of the things I did that I really enjoyed, I wanted to mention, was I had a very great meeting with the Coastside Masons and talked about volunteerism in Pacifica, and just got a really great overview and idea of the extensive number of volunteer groups, and we talked about how important that was and what a difference it makes in the lives of our fellow community members and what a special community it makes Pacifica. So I really enjoyed doing that. And next Tuesday, the 21st of July, I'm going on a mayor's walk in Manor Shopping Center with a large number of staff, and I think that's a very important event going forward, and I'm really very much looking forward to that. Have the Library Foundation meeting tomorrow, as well as Economic Development Committee meeting tomorrow, and had an amazing 4th here celebrating our, 239th birthday here in America, and that was very special, and had a magnificent time at the 100th and birthday for the centennial for the Navy Reserves. Very special group of people, and felt wonderful to be part of that and see the Naval Museum there in Alameda. So it was really wonderful to have Mayor Pro Tem Sue Degree with me as well. And with that, we're going to go into oral communications. This portion of the agenda is available for the public to address the City Council on any issues that are not on the agenda. Any persons wishing to address the council shall be recognized by the mayor during oral communications, provided, however, that during oral communications portion of the agenda, only items not on the agenda for that meeting may be addressed. All remarks shall be addressed to the council as a body and not to any member thereof. Council members shall not enter into debate with speakers under oral communications. And I think that's enough there. So I'm going to start. I only have 4 cards. So the first speaker is Betty Rakowski, followed by Dan Stedjink, Ron Makel, and Betty Duran.
Good evening.
Go ahead.
Oh, good evening. My name is Betty Rakowski, and I'm here tonight to ask the council for help with the ongoing lack of hot water at Ocean View Senior Apartments and lack of management concerns. We have a 24-hour emergency service, but when we call that there is no hot water, they do not report it to anybody because they consider no hot water as a non-emergency issue. Elderly and disabled people have to fend for themselves. We are very grateful that everyone in the council and the city of Pacifica and everyone helped in the takeover of Bridge, and we are looking forward to them coming in, but we feel it is unfair that Ocean View is putting the additional burden on them of having to buy a water heater because they don't want to. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments, Betty.
Hello, my name's Dan Stejink, and I'm here to talk on the 7-Elevens coming to Pacifica, and thank you for hearing me. Just to touch on the original intent of the Planning Commissions on there, on July 3rd, 1972, the Planning Commission voted unanimously. Back then, it was 5-0. They hadn't added all the lawyers yet. But it was 5-0, and they voted neither to have 24-hour sales nor gasoline service there. It was unanimous, and I provided the record of that from the Pacifica Record, July 5th, 1972, to the Planning Commission. On a more somber note, this city's had more than its fair share of pain from late-night convenience stores selling alcohol to kids. The most recent reports from the Partnership for a Safe and Healthy Pacifica determined alcohol-related deaths were the #1 killer of adolescent kids in Pacifica. Terra Nova High was on the top 5% of all California schools for binge drinking. Their first recommendation was reduce alcohol access to youth in the retail environment. It's no coincidence that 700 Hickey Boulevard and 505 Lindemar are 100 feet from a Samtrans stop. In 2012, 18% of Pacifica school kids going to public school used either Samtrans or a combination of public transportation to get to their schools. Fairmont's certainly not immune to those problems, yet not a single one of the thousands of residents in the 6027 census tract was noticed of the May 18th meeting for the 7-Eleven going at 700 Hickey Boulevard. They sent out nine notices. 3 went to residents in a nearby census tract. For reference, when Spindrift sent one out in April, they sent more than 100 notices to local residents. This city also has more than its fair share of 7-Elevens. If I kind of use some of the metrics we use for other decisions here, I'm going to look at benchmarking 7-Elevens per resident. Menlo Park has 33,000 residents, 1 7-Eleven. That's 1 7-Eleven for every 33,000. Daly City, rather industrial, has 1 7-Eleven for every 26,000 residents. San Bruno, another one of our sister cities, 42,000 residents, 3 for 14,448 residents per 7-Eleven. Pacifica, with a 3, including the one at 700 Hickey Boulevard, 1 for every 12,800 residents. If we take the one at Dave and Lou's, it would be 1 for every 9,000 residents in Pacifica, almost 3 times the Daly City total. $8.6 million. That's how much 7-Eleven threatened to sue San Mateo for after a city error caused them to revoke their licenses. 7-Eleven makes $15 billion in annual revenues 2014. We have $27 million. Not only can't we control them, we can't kick them out. It's just, I urge us not to get into bed with this partner. Thank you.
Betty Duran, oh, she went home. Is Betty Duran and, oh no, it's Ron anyway. Ron, sorry about that. I've been doing it all night.
Okay, good evening once again, Mayor Irwin and council and staff. I got a couple of things. First, I want to thank you guys for finally getting the highway issue to the public, out there. So a lot of people like myself that have lived here for many years and drive that road and see, a number of areas that need to be improved, and I really think, and some of you I've walked the highway with and talked and communicated with some of you, the east side of the highway has some wonderful potential for pedestrian improvements, extending the sidewalks from Fassler to Seabow Lane, so people staying at the hotels over there in Rockaway, our major commercial area, visitor serving, can walk from a hotel to the surf spot or go bowl. Maybe they want to bowl a few games. And then also I consider the idea of having a nice pedestrian infrastructure from Reina Del Mar on the east side to all the way to Fairmont, going through that field next to Shell Dance, so people can walk to Shell Dance and they can walk down to Fairmont. There's an empty corner lot, right? You go through that big field, it drops down, there's an empty corner lot, and people, kids maybe from Valamar School, they want to walk to go play ball. You got 3 ballparks over there in Valamar. That's be nice to connect the community. The community needs these recreational connections, both the commercial area, the community, people living in these areas. And then my idea would be to underground the utilities and put some nice walkway lights, so in the evening, in the wintertime, when it gets dark early, if people want to walk to Rockaway to eat and walk back from Valamar or Rockaway and blah, 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 and all that stuff. I think we have a great opportunity to maybe do much, much more and just accommodating traffic there. I think there are some small things, extending the turn lanes, the northbound turn lanes from on the Fassler, Reina Del Mar, and of course we need to do something with entering into Shell Dance Nursery, and the northbound turn line to Westport. I sometimes go over there to Fairway there, and I have to slow down to 5 miles an hour, and I got somebody just broken away from Reina Del Mar signal, and they're going 55, 60 miles an hour right on my tail. So we need to be involved in these type of things, and I think we can use this improvement of the highway, working with Caltrain, San Mateo County. I think we can make some marvelous improvements here to make this a better community in a lot of ways, hopefully. That's just, I think we should look at these things and give it a good shot. And, but I appreciate that this is something that I really wanted to see, was this come before the community so that people could give their input adequately. And so I appreciate you guys doing that. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments. Sure, come on, Tom. Let me get his card.
None of my card, so I was puzzled when you didn't call me.
No,
I had
I'm sorry. It's missing, but I'll find it.
Okay, I've got a couple of quick things. First, I believe a forensic audit needs to be done to restore public trust in the city government. The longer it takes, the more distrust there is out there. We just aren't getting the answers that we need. Fireworks. I believe we should raise fines for all the illegal fireworks to reflect the true public safety risk. $10,000 sounds like a real good number to me. 10 times what we're getting now might actually put the people who are putting on the really big shows and are funding those shows by selling to other people in the community. We need to get the actual dealers in illegal fireworks off the streets, and this would be one way to do it. The fourth thing I wanted to talk about in terms of fireworks is we should treat any fires caused by illegal fireworks as arson. They know what they're doing, they know the dangers and the risks to other people, but they do it anyway. They do it for their own pleasure. That describes an arsonist. So that's that. Now we go down to my final thing. The planning department has decided to allow the roads for Harmony at 1 to be paved with standard black asphalt, a material that neither blends into the hillside nor is it a permeable material. I do not feel that this meets either the intent or the spirit of the conditions of approval. Condition number 7 clearly states that all retaining walls, grading, and paving shall blend into the hillsides by using natural colors, textures, and materials. Now, there is nothing natural about the color the jet black asphalt in terms of going up on that hill. Now, there are ways to deal with that. They could put the asphalt down. It can be colored, actually. What they do is they clean the plant out, and then they put whatever color they want in. So you could use the 3 inches of asphalt. You don't get your permeability that you want, but you would at least get the color you want. The second option is use the black asphalt. There is actually a material, it's an epoxy sheets that they put down. They can be textured. You can have different colors from the sidewalks to the road, and they're much cheaper. So that makes it. There are other possibilities.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, I don't have any other cards. Anybody else have anything to say? If not, I'll bring it back for consideration. Item number 12. Appointment to City of Pacifica Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission and the Open Space and Parkland Advisory Committee. Proposed action is moved to appoint 2 citizens to, oh, no, never mind. Anyway, do I have a staff report?
Thank you, Mayor and council members. The city has recruited applicants for the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation Commission and the Open Space and Parkland Advisory Committee to fill vacancies as a result of expiring terms and resignations. These opportunities were advertised in the Tribune for 3 weeks consecutively, and interviews were conducted by City Council on June 24th, 2015. Staff recommends council make appointments at this time for these committees per the attached application list.
Thank you. Questions from council?
I didn't make the interviews, so I'm sorry, I thought you called my name.
No, that's all right, that's all right.
I didn't make the interviews, so I wasn't going to vote.
You have been, is that a necessity that people that don't make the interviews can't vote with the interview packet that we have?
No, there's no legal reason or other procedural reason why council members who are not attending the interviews could not go ahead and participate in the appointments.
Okay. Just so you know, Mike could consider it if you'd like.
Yeah, I just do it.
It's hardly persuasive in getting us to attend, then.
Yeah. And actually, I think I might have started that just because I don't
you
feel
did it
like
the
you
last
have the.
Right, I know.
Well, I've done it since I've been up here.
Okay.
But I just don't think that you have all the information. I just lost the sheet, Kathy.
I have another one.
I did lose mine.
Okay, so
am I
Oh,
supposed
no, here it
to
is.
vote or not vote?
That's up to you.
yeah, okay.
But I did want to report to council that I was late for the first 2, so I called both of them and asked them the questions that you had asked.
Okay.
So,
And again, I'll just go over the process. You do have a list of applicants for each committee and commission, and if you could mark 3 for the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation, and 2 for the Open Space and Parkland Advisory Committee, then I will tally your votes.
And just to verify, on the open space, we only...
I'm sorry, I'm not
Sorry
going to
about
tally
that.
your votes.
On the open space, we only interviewed Paul Jones, and the other person didn't...
That's correct. Mr. Gefkin was not at the interviews.
Right, okay.
so we only have 2 candidates.
Right, well, there was other people interested that came to the interviews, interested as well on open space, so one of the potential opportunities was to ask one of those people if they wanted to serve on the open space. That was something that...
That's correct. You did have one applicant who chose Parks, Beaches, and Recreation, but as a second or third choice, actually had chosen Open Space and Parkland as well.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
One of the applicants applied for Parks, Beaches, and Recreation, but on their numeration on the form, her second or third choice, I believe, was Open Space and Parkland.
Who was that?
And I believe that was Bonnie Delaplane.
Bonnie, right? Yeah. So we can, first, any questions of council or? I have no cards on this item either, so I will bring it back to council, and we have the,
Mayor Irvin, if I just might offer another option for you. For the Open Space and Parkland Advisory Committee, if you would like to open it up again to allow this interested person who might want to apply, if you'd like to have some time to have additional candidates have an opportunity to apply, that's another option.
okay, we can discuss that then. So let's go ahead, you want to go ahead and vote on the Parks, Beach, and Recreation, and then we can visit the discussion for...
They're both on the same form.
Okay.
Do you want to, I mean,
yeah.
I'm fine opening it up again if you...
Yeah, let's, I'm good with it. Sue, what do you think?
As long as it doesn't take forever.
Right, and, okay, as long as I'd also like to at least be able to select
It'll probably will.
the candidate that was at the interviews for the open space, if we can do that. Paul Jones.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
And so we'll just be looking for one more candidate.
So, do you want to make a motion to appoint Mr. Jones? Is that?
I'll make
Yeah.
that motion to appoint Paul Jones.
Do I have a
Second?
second?
Second.
Okay. Shall we vote on that, or you want to go on to the next one?
Let's vote.
Let's vote.
We have to vote, Michael.
I was going to vote
Oh,
because I
yeah.
didn't mean it.
Okay, don't worry.
Well, it's pretty easy. I only have one person.
Yeah, it's all right. And that passes 5-0. Now we're going to look at the applicants for the Parks, Beach, and Recreation. So here we just write down our selections and pass it down.
Yes.
Saw that off. While we're sitting here, I just think it's great that we have so many wonderful applicants for these positions.
Yeah, they were a great number of applicants.
And I thank all people who serve.
Definitely, definitely.
Absolutely. They do amazing work for our city.
And we thank all the people that stayed until the bitter end.
Winner is...
Okay, so according to your selections, we have 5 for Greg Cochran, and 5 for August Murphy, and 4 for Michael Mao.
Great. Nice. So
I didn't vote. How'd you get 5?
Sorry.
4, 4, and 4.
4. I had 4.
Just stuffing
Okay.
the ballot box.
We have a,
I redo.
do I have a motion to approve,
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. 4-0 to have Greg Cochran, August Murphy, and Michael Mao on the PBNR, and on the open space is Paul Jones. We'll be continuing our search for an additional applicant for open space.
That's correct. Thank you.
Very much. Okay, and that brings us to our last item, which is the designation of voting delegate for League of California Cities Annual Conference. Designated voting delegate and an alternate who will be present at the business meeting.
What's the date again?
It's
Thank you, Madam Mayor and council members. This year's annual conference is being held in San Jose, California from September 30th to October 1st, or 2nd, 2015. At the annual conference, the delegates from each city vote on resolutions that provide future policy guidelines for the organization. The business meeting will be held at noon on Friday, October 2nd. Any council member attending is eligible to be a delegate. The league is asking for council action by July 31st on this item. So that is why we're bringing it for you, to let us know who you would like to be the voting delegate and the alternate.
okay. So this is Wednesday, September 30th through Friday, October 1st, and we need
October 2nd.
October 2nd, Saturday? Or,
Yes, it's the
Okay.
30th of September.
okay. I would like to go, but I have to validated. There might be some hardship with work. Wednesdays and Fridays are very busy days for me at work, so I would love to have somebody who definitely.
Usually it's the mayor, so.
Right.
You want an alternate too?
Yeah, I'd love to have an alternate.
I go all the time.
Okay.
Unless something
So Mayor-
dreadful happens.
Great.
In San Jose, it's close.
So we actually need a motion.
Okay.
Make the motion.
Okay, go.
So move? Oh,
Yep.
okay. Sorry. Do we have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Okay, and that passes 5-0. And with that, I adjourn the meeting.
All right.
Was there a sheet of paper we have to fill out? Was that in the packet?
I think it is.
Was there? It seems so early. I mean, anything could happen.